Okay, it is now 1 o'clock according to my clock. So I'd like to call the October 20th, 2022 Montecito Board of Architectural Review to order. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members. Tip, I don't see you. Are you on?
I don't see him, John.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Okay, so first item, public comment. Is there anybody here that would like to address the board on an item that is not before the board today as an item? Anybody, please? Okay, seeing or hearing nobody, I'll close public comment. Reconsider the circumstances of COVID-19. I would like to move to continue our remote. Is there a second to that?
Second.
I'll second it.
And as we probably already know under discussion, Newsom has said that sometime in February, the state emergency will be removed. And therefore,
It's February 28th, by the way.
is that what it is? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Claire.
Yeah.
So I don't think that we will be permitted to meet after that, all fully remote. So just as an FYI, there is a motion on the floor. Is there a second, please? Excuse me. Any other discussion, please?
No.
All those in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Agenda status report, Sharon?
John, the Miramar Hotel project, is that item number 2?
It is.
They have well, the planner has requested to drop it from the agenda.
Do you need a motion for that, please?
No.
Okay.
And just out of curiosity, this is the second time that it's happened. When we're saying the drop, so we can expect to see it at the next agenda, or we just drop
Well,
it
no, not
till when?
and that when we drop it, it means it's not going to a date.
It's gone until it's put back on by somebody, Claire.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah. Well, because it's the second time that this has happened, I was kind of curious what's going on there.
Okay, I did not see any minutes. Did I miss them?
No.
No minute.
Okay, I would like to move to continue item Roman numeral 4 minutes to the next meeting. Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor, please.
Aye.
All those opposed. Tip, it sounds like you're on.
I'm on.
Excellent,
Thank
thank you. Okay, Montecito consent agenda. Claire and I guess Bill to some extent, Bill, reviewed the one item that we have. It was item number 1427 Pimiento Lane. We recommend that the project receive both preliminary and final, with the applicant to add the FAR worksheet and to detail the main wood trellis. Is there any other comments, please? Is there a second, please?
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please?
I do you have to do an announcement for the preliminary?
Ah, and I forgot to do that, yes. Is there anybody, I forgot to do that at consent. Thank you, Claire. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on 427 Pimiento Lane, item C1, please?
I didn't receive any.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, so now let's vote. All those in favor, please? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you very much. Members' informational briefing, please. Anybody?
I have something.
Elida, please.
I was hoping that perhaps a number of our board members had a chance to look at last week's, the October 13th Montecito Journal edition. A young man went to great lengths and interviewed representatives from all sorts of local, state, community agencies about sustainability, climate change, water sustainability, on for Montecito. It was hugely educational, and I highly recommend it. We've talked about it the last couple of meetings, kind of tiptoed around this subject, and I found it educational about what's out there being done for our community, what these experts at these different agencies are suggesting we might do, what we cannot do. I just urge you, if you can't go by the journal and pick up last week's copy, it's always online. I think you'll find it hugely beneficial.
Anybody else, please?
No.
Okay.
I'm just going to agree with Elida. It is an extraordinary item, and it was actually, most of it was a lot about the work that the Montecito Association is doing around, they've actually created a committee.
Yeah.
It's called the Sustainability Committee. And it kind of jarred me into thinking that, there are changes that need to be made in Montecito. There's a different generation from when we created the guidelines, when we created the general plan, and now, a number of things have happened over that, and it really is time to relook at things. And that's where I was left, and I went, oh my God, and I actually signed up to be on the Sustainability Committee. Because I think it really is what is wanted and needed right now from our
It's
future.
coming, if we want it or not, it's coming.
Yeah, so it really is a really great article.
Okay, so I have our bi-weekly Where Am I photograph. Does anybody know where I am?
I think it's the London train station.
Okay, anybody else?
Arkansas.
Excellent, Don. Do you know who the architect was? Do you remember?
I could give me a half hour and I'll tell you. Oh, Faye
Faye Jones, yes.
Jones.
And
Arkansas. This is in Arkansas?
and I believe he won a gold medal for this, didn't he, Don?
Yes, Northwest Arkansas.
And he was a professor. He designed a truss system all out of wood and very small metal connectors. He had his students walk the material in and assemble it on the site. So it was remarkable. It's called Thorn Crown Chapel. You can find it online. It is truly an amazing building. Okay, that's number one. Excellent, Don. So last meeting, we talked about WELO and water and things like that. Finally, Sharon, David, and not David Bendro, he was not able to attend, and Lisa Plowman and I talked for about half an hour, and I think the way we should attack this is to review the WELO calculation, how it applies, is it working, are there suggestions that we have? Lisa thought that was a fabulous idea to such an extent that she wants to wrap that in probably to all of the BARs in the county. And to have a joint meeting, maybe there are a few members from each group or something. I haven't heard back, but I think that she would like to have that discussion. So exactly where that goes, of course, I don't know, but it sounds like something will happen about consideration of WELO and maybe advising the Board of Supervisors of what we have found, and so that they may or may not want to change WELO. The second thing is I have requested, it's been a long time since we've had county council talk to us about the Brown Act or anything else. And I requested that we have that meeting, and apparently the first available date is the first meeting in December. And what I'd like to have covered in that at least is the Brown Act. How do people behave remotely once we go off of where we are now? There's some very special provisions, and I think it's him or her, to review that with us so that we have absolute certainty of how to proceed as individuals as we go forward. I want to talk about the limits of our authority and the limits of our review with them. I'd like to talk about, from time to time, there are people that no longer are interested in being on the board or whatever. About members, are we as a group permitted to talk about that? Do we have to follow the Brown Act, etc.? Also about other things as simple as what is a serial, SERIAL meeting, and have us go over that again just to make sure we're all in there. The difference between recusal and abstention, to have people find out what their options are on voting. So I am going to try to prepare an outline. I'm going to get it to Sharon or David, and have them put it on our agenda for next week. Hopefully, I'd like to review that to make sure that all of the items that members of the board would like to have county council address is on that. And then I want to have staff get that over to county council so that they're well prepared for that. So I just wanted to fill you in on that. Staff update, anybody?
I have another thing I wanted to go over.
Elida, please.
Sharon or John, can we get a heads up as to what is expected of us next Wednesday, the 2nd, at this county or city gathering?
I'll leave that up to John.
Well, it's a joint meeting, so I will call us together or to order, and I don't know who the chairman of the city ABR is, but he or she will call their board. We will see some presentation. We will review it just like we do now. It will be long, slow, and cumbersome. And at some point, we will be pushed to make a final vote with or without conditions. Chances are we will get great pushback if we attempt to continue it. So
Will we follow our course of questions, comments? That
probably. I don't know, but clearly public comment will be needed through the Brown Act. We must do that, etc. Okay.
I think
Okay,
the city agency does follow a similar protocol for review. So I would imagine it'd be the same. Question, answer, presentation, question, answer, public comment, and then comments.
Yeah,
Anybody
it's
else?
like a regular meeting, but it's a joint meeting because Montecito and the city share half of the roundabout. And so this is a joint meeting with the two design groups to go over the final plans and comment to them.
And FYI, this week's Montecito Journal, that's their lead article at length. I haven't had a chance to read it all, but
Oh, I haven't picked mine up yet.
okay, thank you.
A good time is guaranteed for all. Okay, staff update, please. Kimberly, Sharon,
Nothing for me, thank you.
Sharon, No? Okay. Item number 1, conceptual review, 180 Hermosillo Drive. Is Sam Grosshans here or someone else, please?
Sam was the planner. It's Adam. I think it just got agendized incorrectly.
Wow.
But yes, I'm here.
So who are you then? What's your whole name?
I'm Adam Grosshans.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Adam. Okay.
You can see the limitations of our agenda. Okay, please proceed.
Okay, so basically, this is this existing house on Hermosillo Road, and basically the house itself is on a hill, so it basically is like a split level house with some living below ground and some living above ground. If you go to some of the photos, this is the neighborhood. So this is like what's around what the neighbors look like, and then go down, and this is the house itself. So the house itself is on like a hill. So basically, it's almost a walkout basement on the downstairs, and then you enter in kind of on a middle level on the upper left-hand corner. You can kind of see it, like there's a window that you enter in as a split level. Let's go down to the next sheet where we can see the existing plans. Okay, perfect. So basically, you enter in on the split level entrance. The door is not being, yeah, right where you're right there. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's at the landing. It's split level. It shows up on the proposed plan. I don't know why the door's not there, but anyway, it's split level, and then it goes up to the living room, and there's a deck and kitchen, and there's like a little patio area. And then the master bedroom is at the front of the house currently on like the second floor. And there's a garage that is only accessed via a walkway from the exterior at the front. And then downstairs, there's a living room and 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom currently. And then there's this kind of storage area, kind of space in the middle of the building that basically there's a bunch of this is right at the center on the left side from the stairs.
The crosshatch.
Yeah, where the crosshatch area is. Mm-hmm. So there's like behind that crosshatch, there's a bunch of ductwork and stuff that are like sort of crisscrossing under there, and they kind of and like the owner or the previous owner put like a shed, like just a storage shed underneath there. But we're proposing to fill that in to create a bathroom and basically move all of the bedrooms downstairs and all of the living upstairs and bring the master downstairs. So next sheet. And so basically we're moving all of the living room down, or all of the living space upstairs. And so the master bedroom becomes like a den TV room area. And then we're proposing that to actually use like on the south side of the plan above the garage, actually have a little patio space that's an extension off of the den. The beautiful thing about this property is that it has like these tiered like levels with the slope, and there's all of these like balconies off the back and off the side and off the master bedroom on like the bottom side, these like little outside areas. So it was sort of we have this idea of providing a similar thing above the garage, and also providing a fireplace there that just has like a little gas like fireplace there, but just make it give the front a little bit more presence. And then downstairs we have infill to create a new bathroom for the sort of common use for like oh, sorry, not common use. That one's for bedroom 1, and then adjust to have an ensuite for bedroom 2, and then do a master on the north side that's sort of more private and quiet because it's away from the street, and it's lovely foliage around there, and so it's very quiet and peaceful right there. And so next sheet. So the electrical that we're providing, the lighting that we're proposing for the new exterior lighting we're proposing for this patio are just low lights in a little parapet. There'll be a detail later of like that parapet area of what we're proposing more in depth, but I didn't want to add more light to the street and the area, so it was just lighting like the plane of where your feet are and nothing more. And then here we have the existing and proposed elevations. So the existings are all on the left, the proposed are all on the right. It's pretty minor changes on the north side. We're just infilling the wall downstairs and then like waterproofing basically the patio, so it acts as like a roof patio, and then also the chimney and the railing for the deck. And so yeah, and so the front elevation, we're just adding that chimney. Let's go to the details. They're a little bit more illuminating. Okay, perfect. So this is just cutting. This is like a cutting through the garage area and sort of like how we're doing the steps. It was very tight, but we're able to get all like the clearances and everything to actually make this sort of adjustment. And then what we're proposing with the sort of the planter detail on the left side. Yeah, right there. Yeah. So basically the roof line is right at the garage, the existing garage roof, like dash line. Can I mark up, annotate? Oh, I can. Oh, perfect. So basically the existing fascia is right here. So we're only proposing to raise this a foot up, and then we have the railing go the remaining for guardrail to make it the railing look smaller. And then we also have the planter out front so that it sort of hides it a little bit more. And that's pretty much it. There's a rendering on the cover sheet that shows this configuration.
Here it is.
Yeah, so if you zoom in on that.
Okay.
So like the existing roof is like right about there, and so we're just bumping that up and then adding in a railing and a little planter to sort of like hide that, and then the chimney to sort of balance out the facade and give it a little bit more presence.
Are you done there, sir?
I am done.
Okay, Bill, please.
I don't think I have any questions. You're not doing anything to the landscape or anything down in the back of the house where the deck cantilevers and all that?
Nope.
No changes down there then?
No.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I have any questions then.
Chip,
No questions.
Claire,
Have you done a FAR study?
I have not yet.
Okay.
Don, is that it,
Nope.
Claire?
No questions.
Claire, were you done?
Yes.
Okay, Don has nothing. A lighter, please.
No questions.
And I have no questions. Okay, public comment. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 180 Hermosillo Drive, please?
I don't see anyone, John, thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, comments. We are on for concept, and where should we go from here? Please, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, it's so minor, the work being done here. I do like the little addition. I think the fireplace is kind of a nice feature. It's very plain, and the railing kind of adds a little detail. So I'm fine with what I see, and I'd be willing to have them come back for preliminary and final at whatever level everyone else agrees to.
What do you think?
On consent, or, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. I think it's a pretty small amount of work.
Okay, Tip,
I concur with Bill.
Claire,
Yes, I just want to be very clear here. This was my in-laws, the Gottstankers used to own this building before they died. So I'm very, very familiar with it. And I think what the work that you're doing to it is going to make it more comfortable for who is ever living there. And I think you've done a great job. I think I agree with Bill, that we should move this on to the consent item, when it comes back for final and for both preliminary and final on consent.
Don?
I agree with Claire, preliminary, final on consent.
Elida?
I agree with everyone else on this.
My comment, I agree too. My comment is, I don't think this written description on the agenda did you any favors. And I would ask that you really reconsider it. And in the FAR worksheet, I did do a calc based on this written description, which I don't think is very good.
Mhm.
It came out to 104.
104?
104. So with the stuff, I'm not so sure they added. I think that they converted. Maybe there's a little bit of storage room that was added. So when you do the FAR worksheet,
Mhm.
be clear as to what's existing and what's being altered. If you're altering it, you don't add additional square feet. Because if you add everything that's on the agenda, it's 129. So I don't think, after I reviewed the plans, I didn't think that it was that. But anyway, I also concur that this should come back to the board on preliminary, final, and consent. And there is no motion, so thank you very much. We will
Thanks.
see you on the consent calendar. All drawings, that does not mean you get to do things incompletely. You just don't have to come to the full board to show us your complete package, okay?
Understood.
Thank you. Have a nice day now. Item number 2 has been continued or dropped or whatever it is. Item number 3, 286 East Mountain Drive. Claire, are you in on this one? Did you get a notice?
No, I don't live on East Mountain Drive. I live on West Mountain Drive.
Very
And-
good. Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to put in there, I actually question myself as whether I should be going out on this, because I am I lived on this property in the late 60s. So I am very, very clear about what's going on. My firstborn son, who's 52, lived right next door, and he was born right next door to this piece of property. So the comments that I just want to make sure that, because I am going to make a number of comments, I just wanted everybody to be really clear in the public that it's okay for me, because I'm 300 feet away from this property, but I still am attached to this property. I mean, I love this property, so whatever. That's what I have. I think I should say that, just inside of all the things that we're doing with county council these days.
Dylan, are you with us, please?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Dylan Johnson, and also for the sake of disclosure, Claire and I are neighbors. We're both very familiar with this property. We can actually see it from.
We are actually next door neighbors.
Yeah, exactly. Claire and I are next door.
Yeah.
And so this project, this is a new residence. It's a T fire rebuild. There was a house there that was lost in the T fire. It's particularly meaningful for Claire, obviously for myself, being a neighbor. I can see this property from where we live. And for the owner, Todd Quigley, who's here today too, to answer any questions. Todd grew up in this community and has been away for a number of years and is moving back to build this home. So I think you're all likely familiar with the neighborhood. It's a 5-acre parcel at the top of Upper Hyde Road. It's the highest parcel on that private road. There's really, it's 5 acres, but the majority of the site is very steep and rugged chaparral. So there's really only one building pad. It's where the house was prior to the T fire. So we're reusing that essentially that pad that exists. There's also a driveway, and lots of the bulk of the site infrastructure is already in place. So there's a road that accesses this. You can see it there in the Google Earth, kind of spiraling up to the top of the knoll. You know, the bulk of the civil and site work that we're doing here has been driven by Robert Schmidt from Flowers Associates, is also here to answer questions. But it's really about meeting fire department requirements to widen the road and provide the turnouts and so forth. So you'll see the first several sheets are really all about that. But our goal with the project is essentially to build a new home, about 4 bedrooms, 3,400 square feet for Todd and his family. It very much conforms to the topography of the site. It's, you know, really envisioning it as kind of a low slung architectural element sort of set against the steep chaparral. The title sheet rendering, I think, kind of captures the goal of what we're trying to achieve. Yeah, exactly. That upper image there, just almost kind of just sitting on a ledge, kind of tucked against the hill, set back from the front slope. So it's largely not seen from the downslope. This is sort of a true elevation view in Google Earth. And one of the most interesting things about this project for me, particularly exciting, is Todd's interest in using rammed earth as the primary building material, wall material for the structure. And you know, it's sort of a nod to the historic traditional use of earthen buildings up on Mountain Drive, a modern take on that meets current codes. It essentially performs like structural concrete, but you use soils and sands and aggregates from the site excavation into the mix. And then it's a very dry mix, and it's sort of laid in and rammed vertically to create a sort of really beautiful striated texture. This view, in fact, we'll get to the rendered elevations in a minute. This is all glass here on the south side, taking advantage of the views. But it's really a pretty exciting building material that I think is presents some really great options for this site. So yeah, maybe let's just scroll down a little bit. Susan Van Atta is here with us. She's our landscape architect and has prepared a preliminary conceptual landscape plan. Yeah, Susan, do you want to say a few words about the landscape strategy before we get into the plans and elevations?
Sure. I'll just a brief overview. One of the main things we're looking at is fire safety in the landscape, but we're also using native plants. And so in some ways, in its entirety, this is a habitat restoration project. That's all I have to say in a formal way, but I'm here for questions.
It's also worth noting Susan is another neighbor, just lives down the hill from the site. So also has some real interest in what we do up here. Well, great. Well, why don't we scroll down let's go to A2.1 and actually just look at the plans and elevations. Yeah, this may be a good place to start. So you can see the building is really kind of an L-shaped courtyard. So the driveway comes up from the left here. Exactly. And then it's set up over 3 levels. It's a single story building, but sort of on 3 different levels, starting with the lowest at the garage at elevation about 1095, I believe. That's right off what would be the upper turnaround on the top of the knoll. And then a flight of stairs up to an entry level that includes the bedrooms. Exactly. Yeah. So the front door will be right there, kind of wrapping in those rammed earth walls. Kid and guest rooms are on the west side there that sort of wrap to the southwest corner. And then to the southeast is the primary bedroom suite. Really a pretty simple plan. And then back in the center of the hall is a small flight of stairs, I think 5 risers up to the great room, which is just a pretty simple single space kitchen, dining, and living room that then opens up. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the elevations and sections. You can see the roof plan here, three roof levels that mirror the floor plates below. So it's just kind of this stepped mass along with the topography. Here's this. Let's actually go to the longitudinal section first. I think the next sheet, or 3.3, I believe it is. and one more page. There you go. So this drawing really captures how the building is organized on the topography. So the hill comes up to the top of the knoll and it actually drops back down where the driveway is and then rises, hundreds, thousands of feet above behind the site. So you can see the great room there on the right has a very deep overhang. It's a 10-foot ceiling. So again, kind of a low slung flat roof that opens onto a large covered patio with a pool right outside of that. And you can see a little clear story window on the left or the north side of the great room to really take advantage of natural ventilation. Between the rammed earth and an all electric construction and so forth, we're shooting for a super energy efficient project here. And I think with these deep overhangs and the thermal mass and so forth of the rammed earth, we're setting up pretty well to achieve that. So let's scroll down. The next two pages are the colored elevations, which will be a little easier to envision. So again, that's a view of the south. So you can see the bedroom wings on either side of the great room are stepped down a few feet. The east elevation, here you can see a little bit of the rammed earth toward the south. That's the end of the bedroom block. And then that darker material, again, looking at sort of natural materials that are fire resistant, and also just to break down the scale of the rammed earth a little bit, we're proposing a rusted core 10 flat panel siding for essentially parts of the garage elements to again, just kind of reduce the overall length of the rammed earth elements that are used. So if you scroll to the next page, you can see the other two elevations. So the top one there is sort of cut through the site at the driveway, looking at the front door. You can see the steps going up to the front door there. And the great room is that raised roof in the background. And then again, that darker element on the left is the core 10 clad garage. Exactly. And then on the west elevation, similar rammed earth elements toward the south end, and the garage door panels are rendered in that core 10. Let's see, I think, let's go to the final page here, just a few images of the site so you can imagine a little more. So the image in the upper right, this is from the top of Coyote Road. You just sort of catch a glimpse of this site up to the right there. The upper left image is the top of Upper Hyde Road, or the beginning of the driveway that accesses this property. And then a few images in the middle row there, going up the driveway. There's a turnaround required by Montcito Fire, sort of midway up the driveway. So that's existing. That's an existing hammerhead that is improved. And then the top of the driveway, you can see the flat spot where the house was and where we're proposing to put it now. Yeah, so the cursor there is right in the turnaround. Exactly. That's probably the best image as an overview of the building site. And that wraps up my presentation.
Thank you very much. Questions, Claire?
I want to go back to the grading numbers. And I did see on the sheet that the applicant had divided them up into the grading that was needed to do the road, which I really appreciate that you stepped, but we still have a major grading going on, both for the road and for the house. And so,
and your question is?
My question is, my question is the sheet that is the grading is actually is the grading going to impact the site? See, the way that in what I see in front of me is that the house now is going. What's going to need to happen is flatten the site, and the house actually, the way it's designed, hangs over the edges of the flat part of the parcel. So that's my question: is that is the plan in front of me? Is that the grading plan, or has the grading already been done?
Oh, that's a good question, Claire. So that is the grading plan. And there are areas, because this hill, the shape of the hill, there are areas underneath the house where the house does overhang where the slope starts to fall away. We're not proposing any cantilevers, so those would be fully enclosed, and resulting in about 16 to 17 foot high walls on the east side of the garage and the west side of the bedroom. If you go to the colored elevations, you can actually probably see those better on the next two slides. But yes, Claire, you're completely right. The lion's share of the grading is driven by the driveway. And really it's a function of widening the driveway to get it to the appropriate widths and adding a turnout near the top. So it's essentially a combination of carving away the hill on the uphill side of the driveway and then infilling the downhill side. We've worked at great lengths, and Robert can speak to this as well, to minimize the export, given that we're on a shared private road with a bunch of neighbors here. So that's why, Robert's done a lot of work to essentially take any cut and find places on the site to keep it up there, and has got the export down to, I believe, 500 cubic yards.
And how many truckloads is the export going to produce?
50.
How many?
50.
50 truckloads to get all the export out. Is that what you're saying, John?
10 per, it's 500. Fairly simple calc.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well, that was, I'm really concerned about the grading but I'll deal with
That's
that.
a comment. Any
No,
other
that's
questions,
right.
please?
Yeah.
Any other
No more,
questions,
no
please?
more questions.
Tip?
Yes, no questions.
Bill?
What would you say on your road, which I know some of that is your hands are tied because you got to do what you got to do, but what would you say your tallest site wall is on the road cuts that you're making?
I believe they range from 1 foot to, I believe our highest wall is on actually the slide we were just on. If you scroll up at the upper turnout, which faces sort of exactly to the northwest. And I believe that gets just over 5 feet. Is that right, Robert? Can you confirm?
That's correct. It gets up to 5.2. We really try to minimize those walls as much as we possibly could.
Is the driveway below the hill or is it above? Is it
Below the hill.
below the hill? Thank you.
Cut into here. And also, have you done, maybe discuss real quickly about what your plan is for the lighting inside the house at night and how that may affect the neighborhood there?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the lighting, we haven't designed the lighting package yet, but I'm imagining, a pretty typical all LED 2700 Kelvin sort of warm residential light quality. And of course, drapes over all the windows as well for privacy. I think the biggest mitigating factor for the neighbors is actually the position of the building on the site. If you look at the topo and the sight lines, actually perhaps the site section might be the best place to see that on 3.3. Yeah, exactly. Given the sight lines from below, the actual panel of glass is going to be set back so far and under such a deep overhang that I'm confident it's not going to be a significant lantern sort of sitting up above Mountain Drive there. It's kind of set back from the edge. Reduce it.
And so you're not actually cutting into the hill. You're setting it on top of kind of, it sort of does a natural sort of a swale up and a knoll over, and you're kind of setting the garage down so you don't really see it.
That's right.
But there's nothing, you're not really cutting this down into the hill, and you're
it's
flattening that. That's already kind of a naturally flat spot there already, right? Or are you cutting this out and pushing it? It'd be nice to see where the existing grade is, I guess, there.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to produce that section for the next meeting here. Again, we're here for conceptual. And but you're completely right. The idea is to really step the levels of the house with the natural topography. Inevitably, there'll be a little bit of grading to accommodate the footings and so forth, but in general, it's conforming to what's currently there.
What's there already. Okay. Yeah. All right. That was all. Thank you.
Elida.
The site in general and the contemporary architecture, and Bill, can we go to A41? This calls out for, I would think, solar panel. Are you planning on you taking advantage of these roof lines to, I mean, the solars would actually be a cool architectural asset to this. Are you planning on doing solar?
Absolutely, yeah. We're this house is designed to be able to be net zero energy quite easily. Todd, I don't know if you want to add anything to that question if you'd like.
We're in questions.
No, that was my only question, solar, that's all.
Don, please.
Thank you. You mentioned the rammed earth concept and that a lot of that, or all of it, all the material comes from the site. How do you calculate the import and export? And do you import anything other than soil on the site to make all this work?
Yeah, and to clarify, Don, great question. The mix is some import, so it's a mix of aggregates and some Portland cement to provide strength. So there is some material that's coming from a plant or an outside quarry, but the goal is to use sand and aggregates from the site for both color and texture to sort of have the rammed earth be of the same kind of aesthetic character as the sandstone that's around the site right now. So it's a mix of site materials and off-site materials. And in terms of getting the mix right, we're working with a rammed earth consultant that does this all the time. And essentially they come out, they design the mix, we create test cylinders, test them in the lab to make sure they're meeting the strength requirements for the engineer. And it's expected to be probably 2,500 or 3,000 PSI strength.
Okay, thank you.
I want to follow up on where Bill was going. He was looking at one side of it. The reflectivity of the glass. There are some buildings up on top of Romero Canyon that at certain times of the day, I mean, we have a second sun up in the hills because of the reflection off the glass. Have you considered that and how you might mitigate that effect on the community?
Yeah, great question, John. I experienced the same thing from our house, from those same projects above Romero and Toro Canyon. And I think obviously haven't calculated the precise sort of reflection angles from all the different parts of town, but the biggest thing that's going to work in our favor here are these incredibly deep overhangs. The overhang over the front porch is, I believe we have it at 10 or 12 feet on a 10-foot high wall. So it will be largely shaded from direct sun almost throughout the entire year. And then very little glass on the east and west sides, other than sort of a traditional punch window you might see. So the big expanses of the glass face due south and they're under huge overhangs. So that's our strategy to both address that issue and, a number of other passive solar design considerations.
The roof is drawn as being very thin, maybe a foot, maybe 16 inches something. Have you thought about how you're going to run the HVAC in this project under slab, which it tends to be extremely expensive, or some other method?
Yeah, that's right.
And would that alter your design once you get into that, please?
No, our goal is to keep all of the HVAC from below. So some of this building will likely be over a crawl space. Really, the upper great room will be the only one on a slab. We are likely going to use an in-floor radiant heat system. So that's just tubing in the floor system. So there's not a lot of underfloor ducting required. If we do any ducting, it would likely be running underneath the bedroom wing, that middle layer there. And you're exactly right. The roof, I believe, is 16 inches right now, and it's a Corten steel channel with that's functioning essentially as a sort of small parapet, and all the drainage is happening internal to that. So to answer your question, no, we don't anticipate the roof growing in thickness as we develop the design.
Thank you. Public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that's attending this meeting like to address the board on item number 3286 East Mountain Drive, please?
I didn't receive anything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sharon. Comments, Claire, back to you.
Actually, I was going to ask a question. Why it, well, okay, here we go. Why is the need to be such a large garage? I mean, there's two entrances, but then there's a lot of square footage in that garage, you know, which actually kind of hangs over the garage kind of hangs over the edge a little bit, given the grading, but what we see right now, you know, so why does it need to be so big? And why do we have so much paving out in front of the garage? And then we have a whole bunch of other paving around the garage. So for me, there's a lot of paving that's going on that's not seen by anybody, but there's still, it's paving over, you know, I mean, all around the pool has got paving, and then there's this massive amount of paving that's in front of the garage, and given everything that's going to have the grading and everything, I'm just wondering about that. If you could fill me in about why we need so much paving up there.
Yeah, John, I assume it's okay to start continuing the question section here.
Well, I don't see that we have much choice.
No, we're actually in comments, but I didn't want to
Yes.
comment until I'd asked some of these questions
Yes,
about
Please,
yeah,
Dylan,
the
please.
paving in the garage.
Sure. Yeah, Claire, the short answer is Hammerhead turnaround. This is actually a significant reduction to the original request from Montecito Fire, which was an 80-foot completely circular turnaround for the truck up there. So Robert did some great work with Montecito Fire to essentially lay out a hammerhead, and that the northern leg of that hammerhead is
Got it.
Yeah.
No, I see it. Yeah, he will.
yeah.
Bill,
So that's
great
actually
job,
that's
Bill.
existing. You know, that's existing. So that's not new grading back there. It's working with an existing sort of leg of an existing hammerhead.
Right.
And then the width of the garage is driven essentially by just standard garage depth. I think it's 20 or 22 feet deep,
Yeah.
just to get a vehicle in there. And then the distance north to south, it's interesting you asked. Todd and I have been considering where exactly we put that. And it's really a function of creating a courtyard there at the top. So as you pull that back, it's just kind of an awkward arrival at the top of the knoll if the garage does not extend to the hill on the north end there. It just sort of falls off as you show up. It just disappears off the edge to the east. So yeah, Susan, go ahead. Why don't you add to this?
If we could go to the landscape plan, I think it'll look a little less paved, because some of the areas that look like paving on this plan are actually meant to be planting areas. So for example, we did, you know, because we had to have this much paving at the top, we kept the retaining wall doesn't get really high, even if we push it back that far to get some more planting in. And so I think you can see that black and white plan looked like a lot of paving, but I think you can see more green areas here and terracing and so forth, where we really do have probably just a reasonable amount of paving. We deliberately made the court feel like an ornamental paving surface, again, to break up that feeling of a lot of paving, which is required by the fire department.
Got it. Thank you. And while I've got you here, Susan, what are the heights of the walls? Right in there at that, right? Well, we were at the place. There's a number of walls along, yeah, that right there where we were talking about with what those little plants in there. But what are those walls? There's a lot of walls
Right.
retaining.
And those are also infiltration basins for stormwater management. They double.
The walls along the edge of the driveway?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were pointing to. I thought you
No,
were
I'm
the
talking
plant boxes.
about these. Okay, here we are. Here's the
Yeah,
wall.
here we go. We've got top of wall and finished grade. So about 4 feet.
Those walls are about 4 feet. Okay, and they're actually, there wouldn't be visible from anywhere, but I'm just
Right.
curious. Okay. And then we're in comments. So then one of my comments is kind of a tag on to one of the other members, is that I'm very, very concerned about the lighting in the house and the spillover that is going to create out into the world. You know, I mean, it's not like landscape lighting. These are interior lighting, and we don't normally deal with that. But I'm left with, oh my God, you know, on the top of the hill here, all we're going to see is lights, lights, lights coming out from the building. So before you come back, I really, Dylan, would like it to you kind of really have a look at that lighting, and so that you can really explain to me and other members of the board that there's not going to be any impact of that lighting, you know, because quite frankly, I live next door to lighting that is spills over to my house, to my other, to, you know, other people here, you know, coming up, you come up Coyote Road and it is ablaze every night when you're on site. So that's where I really have a concern about the design and the lighting and the amount of lighting that's going to impact the neighbors and anybody that has privilege of seeing this lighting. So that was going to be one of my original questions and things. So that's all I have to say. Other than I think the building is lovely. I think it's appropriate. I think it's a little too big, but you know, that's okay. That's just my point of view. I think it could have been a little bit more compact, so it didn't have to spill over the edges of the given available site. So, but that's just me, because I believe, I mean, Mountain Drive has some of the smallest buildings in the world. You know, then this is a little jarring for me, but that's personally, you know, it's a personal thing that I think the building is slightly too big for the site. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Tip.
Yes, you know, I in a way, I do agree with some of the comments that Claire made about the lighting. I think a very nice, quiet building. I like the amount of overhang, which will make it good for the house. It's better for the visual aspect of it when you're looking up at the house, and we're protected from the sun. So I think the overhangs are nice, and the design is simple. The house, it's not that big. I think it's probably an appropriate design for a hilltop. The only one comment I would like to add to this is that about the glaring issues of looking up and see the lighting. I believe that sometime if you can introduce some forward planting, that will be able to soften up the look. And I believe that looking out from the house through the trees might be something that's very pleasant. So I would like for you to consider some, you know, real mature planting just to complement the design of the house and to soften it up a little bit and add some green to it, and in a way make it a little more cohesive with the landscaping. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Tip. Bill?
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna jump on the wagon with Claire and Tip about the lighting. Of course, that's always a challenge with trying to get, you know, great views. You want to get great views. So, but the problem is the night lighting out there. How do you supplement that? Can you shield it? As Tip says, I think, you know, maybe there's more mature planting, whether it's down low. Just do some studies to see whether or not that would cut off any view from the neighborhood. Of course, you know, it wouldn't take much to see it out from the ocean. Even you could see that as a lantern if it was bright enough. I like the design of the architecture. I think what I like is that you've taken a good part of it and stacked it down behind and tucked it into that little low spot in the hill. It kind of created a knoll there, and it sort of sits back in there. Maybe to Claire's point too, that this garage, you know, maybe there's a possibility of bringing it forward a little bit and not having it cantilever and make that such a tall wall on that side. I don't know if that's an issue so much because you could plant it out, but that might be a fairly tall wall by the time you get the grade, where it hits the grade and the finished floor of the garage. So look at that and make sure that that's not too large. You've shown it in the elevation there. Other than that, you know, I like the style of the architecture. I think it's simple and clean. And like I said, I think the lighting, I think you've addressed the reflectivity there with the long overhang. Certainly west sun will be hitting that one side, but you don't have a lot of glass over there. So I think you've affected that, but the reflection, the light at night will probably be the most concerning of all. So anyway, looks good. Thank you.
Elida?
The lighted fishbowl issue is a challenge to be solved, but I love the design, especially the north and south elevations. Those are wow factors. I think it's going to be beautiful.
Is that it?
Yep.
Don?
Yes, I agree with all the comments that preceded me. But I'd like to add that when it comes back with further drawings, that you include all the roof penetrations, fireplace chimneys, any venting and so forth, so that it doesn't look like it does in the existing sketches, but it's a good solution. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to tag on to some of this lighting and also Don's comment. I think that we've got about 2/3 of the design here. I'm assuming that you're going to put the solar panels on the roof. That could be incorrect. If you do, I think it's going to have a very large visual effect on this project. And I would like you to either acknowledge that you are or are not going to put them on there, and if not, where they do go on the ground. I know that they're exempt from review, but I think a nod towards community planning might be appreciated. I think that this is gonna, if this is like any other project that I've seen, the kind of glass that will be necessary to achieve this percentage of glass is going to be a very high quality glass, maybe something like Solar Band 60 or 80. And I don't know if that, not only with the interior membranes that glass type has, if they have a non-reflective coating that you could put on the outside, that would also work. I'm wondering if you could explore that, please. And we approved a project maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It could maybe even be 4 years ago. It's completed now. It's down on Channel Drive, immediately to the west of the Biltmore. And we were very concerned about the lantern effect of that project. And we actually asked for some screens to be put in that would help mitigate that. I think that it's more than just a little planting. I would ask you to be very, very careful with this. We will hear about it and we will be affected by it, which would be unfortunate unless you get it done correctly now, and we're all rooting for you for that. Now, knowing that if I can see you, you can see me, should the board go up on the site as a formal site visit to see the area, the visibility of this project from the remaining of the community to determine how serious this lantern effect and the reflectivity effect is, or shall we let, or do we not need that, please? Members of the board?
I already went to the site this morning after I site visits. On my way home, I actually drove up to the site.
Okay.
So I'm pretty clear about it, you know. And then after we get through this part, there's just one other comment that I want to make with the applicant coming back.
Can Google Earth do
I
an
wouldn't trust
overview
it.
that shows where other houses are in relationship to this property?
What I'm concerned, for instance, if they move the house back 40 feet, you won't see this house from down below. But then again, they won't have the view of the ocean that they have now. So I'm not asking them to do that. But Bill, I think, talked about it, and Chip, I think, talked about it. Figuring out exactly how that works is not rocket science, but I think the board, in my opinion, should be informed about that to protect the community against another lantern.
We could certainly leave it to the applicant to try and prove to us and show us in ways with a site section. Maybe it's an extensive section, as extensive as you can get, rough, showing, where it positions on the rest of the hill and how screening would landscape it away from immediate neighbors, certainly from Mountain Drive. I don't know if it's easy enough to take a site section down that using a flood control map or something. I've had to do those in the past. So if they felt comfortable doing that, we could start with that. If we want to make a site visit, I'm happy to do that too. So
Anybody else, please? Comments? Okay, so let's start with the applicant proposing a site section. Quite frankly, I'd love you to take it down to the ocean. It can be fairly small, but small scale. But I think it will show where the reflectivity would come from. And anything else? Claire, you said you wanted to.
I did have one other thing. Dylan, could you work with your engineers and see if we can reduce the amount of export? If that's going to take the number of trucks that Mr. Watson is recommending, this is a problem for me because this is a private road. And I was the one that actually got this private road approved after the T fire. And the previous owner paid nothing towards that, and it's been an issue in the community for a long time. And so I really want, because I know, Dylan, that you understand my perspective where I'm coming from, is that this private road was paid for. And if you're going to put 10 trucks or tell how many truckloads on this road, this is going to be a problem because that road has to be maintained by the owners of the road. Nobody else could come by and fix it. So I just really want you to work with the numbers and see if you can get your export numbers and your number of trucks that you're needing to get that export out, to see if when you come back, you have your engineer people can get rid of some of this export off the private road. Okay, that's my thing right now.
Okay, where do we want to go with this next? Back to the full board for concept?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, excellent. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Dylan. Have a nice afternoon, and we will see you whenever you get back.
Thank you.
Okay, so item number 4, 43.
Oh, John, is there any reason that they shouldn't be able to come back for preliminary at the next hearing?
I personally would like to see how they solve the lantern, and I want to know what's going on with that roof.
Okay, fine, that's fine. Yeah, okay, that's fine, yeah.
Okay, thank you for asking though. Okay, item number 4, 43 Humphrey Road. We did do a site visit on this today. We had 2 neighbors. Are the neighbors with us today, please?
They are.
They are?
Yeah, I've already had 2 people, Mr. Raven and Mr. Jagger, have their hands up.
Okay, excellent. So we will get to you. The order of the meeting is we're going to read these comments. We will have the applicant make his presentation. We will ask questions. Then we will hear from you. And then we will make our comments. Just so we will get to you. It's going to be in about 5 to 10, maybe 15 minutes.
Dana has joined us now too.
Who?
Now, Dana Seltzer, her husband was at the meeting today, so there's 3 now.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, site visit and story poles required. We did that. Delineate chalk and differentiate landscaping versus hardscape. They did that on the site visit. MBAR expressed concerns regarding the height of the structure. Several members expressed concerns regarding the amount of hardscape. Danny, are you here?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can, and is Sam with you, please?
Yes, I am here too, John.
Okay, so Dylan, the floor is yours.
Danny, why don't you tell me what you want to look at first? I've got plans, I've got photos.
Yeah, I think if you start with A1 through A6, I think the B is just sort of backup stuff. I don't think we have to get into those.
Is that this set here then?
Yes, that's the main set.
And,
And I'll just walk you through. I did want to just kind of elaborate on the board's comments. I think they were maybe overly generalized. You had some specific comments related to the concern with height was more related to the kitchen window on the north side specifically. And so I just wanted to elaborate on that a little bit so we can, and I think you were able to look at that today with that lower ridge line that you had asked us to include. And in terms of the hardscape comment, it was specific to the street frontage and the driveway. So just to clarify that. So I guess we'll, go ahead and start with the site plan. It's, we've got a demo rebuild with a 2-story element. The second story is 747 square feet. And to restate our approach to this project from the beginning, we spent a lot of time trying to come up with a design that could fit on this site and keep the character of the site from the street frontage. There's as you saw today, it's really kind of a special front yard with the giant sycamore. It's really a wonderful place to be. We have to honor that tree, both from an arborist standpoint and keeping away from the drip line in a way that will save the tree. And when we can't simply remove it and put the house there. So the constraints on this site, really do push the house to the back of the site. And furthermore, the rear yard, you can see the outline of the existing building there. That's a non-conforming condition where the existing house is further into the rear yard setback than our new house can be. And, we started initially studying a 50% improvement. We are in the flood zone, so we can only approve upon the existing house at a 50% level. It's a small house, so that allowance doesn't give you much. And because of that non-conforming rear yard portion of the house, it limits what we can do with that 50% because we can't improve upon that area that is encroaching into the rear yard. So you can see that our footprint is more or less the same. We're using a little bit more of the northern yard because we have space that's not in a drip line and seems to have less impact on neighbors. The street facade, this concept of putting this small little garage structure in addition to the one single spot that is already there in order to comply with the 2 parking spots, we felt was a really appropriate solution to keeping this kind of charming character from the street and sort of, stepping up to the front of the house, which is single story, but still high, 4 feet above ground because of the flood requirements, to the 2-story element, which is, a small percentage of the total square footage, but is stacked towards the back. And as you saw, there's a lot of mature, tall screening around the property. And, we intend to keep all that and also include that and kind of fill it in with new planting. So I can go to the next slide. This kind of is just a graphic representation of the screening and planting. kind of a field and farm. Next, keep going. That's existing house, 3-bedroom. We're getting one more bedroom out of the new design. I do want to point out here on this floor plan that this patio between the garage and the main porch, that's a permeable surface. Water can be collected into that. We work really hard with the civil engineer on this site to, incorporate appropriate means of stormwater collection in a small area that doesn't impact the big mature trees. So that was a really challenging part of the site. You can show you the civil plan in a little. This is the second floor. 3-bedroom space. They're very small, modest bedrooms. We have an 8-foot ceiling height or plate height upstairs and a 9-foot ceiling height downstairs. So I think we've kind of made those as minimal as possible in order to comply with the flood regulations as well as the height limitations. What do we have? Let's see. It's a roof line. I guess we'll get to that on the elevation. We can keep going. So these are elevation on the top is from the street view. I'm trying to accurately portray the size and scale of the foliage that surrounds the property. On the south elevation, we don't show the 25-foot plus tall hedging that is along this property line because it blocks the house. But I think you guys saw that today when you visited the neighbor's property. I do want to point out that we have been communicating with the neighbors this summer and throughout the process, and we have received feedback from them, over the past week. The owner's been talking with them and meeting with them. They saw the story poles and they had concerns with the second story. And, we don't have a chance to make any adjustments between story poles in this meeting, but I've talked with the owner and he's, agreed that these windows, there's 2 windows, one on this south elevation and one on the west elevation that kind of impact the side and rear neighbors in terms of privacy. And I think we have some to give there and make those windows smaller. So it would be the west elevation on the top floor. I think that the neighbor Jason in the back kind of looks out over his property. It is partially blocked by foliage, but I think we can certainly scale that and go down as well. So I just wanted to point that out. Let's see what's next.
Scrolling.
Yeah. So can you go up one more? Sorry, Bill. We skipped over the kitchen window. And there is a pretty tall plum tree there. It's kind of vertical. There are 2 driveways adjacent that, and there isn't an adjacent house. It's a couple properties over. It's low to the north, and I think hopefully you were able to see that component with the story poles on site today. It's kind of difficult. You have to walk a little bit north on Humphrey Road and look back to kind of look over the fences and hedges. Again, site section, kind of showing the elevations that we have to comply with for flood. And you can kind of see the garage as it relates to the street. Okay. Next. We're just kind of starting to look at lighting and styles, but of course it would be fully shielded and of a style that complies with, relates to the style of the house, Montcito Beach Cottage. So here we are, the landscape plan, so I'll hand it over to Sam.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. So you know the site layout as you saw it. This is the layout plan. If we go to the planting plan, it represents the hardscape and the planting. I think that's L3. One more. We've done a lot of good water kind of calculations in terms of low water needing, drought tolerant plants. But the concerns that I think the board had last time was the streetscape with the openings for cars and pedestrians was a concern. And if you look at what we've done is we've taken away all the gravel that's there and grabbed onto all the way out to the edge of pavement with nice planted areas underneath those existing camphor trees that are the street trees in the right of way. So our attempt to green up an area that's now just gravel will, of course, we hope help the street tree health, but present to the neighborhood a much more green and garden-like effect in front of what would be a hedge of privet at the property line that would in fact kind of make the property private. Right now, there is some Lelandia cypress that are overgrown and gangly and really not doing the correct job of screening. So our intent is to provide a nice dense screen for the private space of this courtyard, leaving the opening for the pedestrian, the opening for the garage, and certainly the guest parking area, but minimizing all those openings, increasing the planting to pinch down any of that perception from the street to being more garden-like. And then on the north side of that kind of easement, you looked at that today, and we worked with that neighbor along that side to increase the fencing solidity, to increase the planting. We are proposing to use a Podocarpus hinkeli that will be growing in most cases from the palm trees back, because between the palm trees is actually a gate, a pedestrian gate and an auto gate for the neighbor's property. So we really don't have room to plant much there, but from the palm tree back to underneath, partially underneath the oak tree at the far corner, we'll be increasing the planting on both sides of the fence where we can on the neighbor's property with an agreement with him and full support, and on our side where we can against our kind of our porch area at the main part of the house. We're leaving those purple leaf plums, and we want to give them a vigorous help into a hardier position for the screening value. And I think the screening value is meritorious for any windows and light and perception of our building along that north side easement. Coming around to the northwest side, that large oak tree will remain, of course. It's not on our property. We're not going to be doing any trimming except for minor trimming. I don't think we need to touch major branches of that for the building wall. Certainly the little deck and this railing won't affect any of the canopy. So that does a good job of screening for, I guess, the neighbors to the northwest and directly to the west. We did talk a little bit with one of the neighbors about letting the hedge on that west north side get as tall as possible to kind of help with some of the buffering and screening for them. Along the back west side, we propose to do additional eugenia that would support exactly what's there now. So continuing that alignment with the darker green little circles, those are new eugenia that would then match and be contiguous and a continuity to the screen that we have in back of that main area. We would keep that liquid amber and the little patio that goes around that liquid amber in the back. As you saw in that area, we have a spa that sits above that that would be at the main house level and stairs going up to it, little seating area in and out of that. The fencing would all be solid around the outside where it is now, and the screening on that south side towards the two-story home to our south would be extended again with that same eugenia that stands 18 to 20 feet high and is doing a very good job of screening now. And we feel that as it remains and is supplemented and added to, will help the whole aspect of our neighborhood privacy issues. Again, the real key cornerstone is this large, amazing Platanus racemosa that's in the center of the courtyard, which makes this an idyllic little kind of interior court outdoor room. We're going to enhance that with just gravel walkways, very, very quaint and rural, some foundation plantings and grasses that will allow for a little bit of softness. We'd like to replace the citrus tree that we're removing for kind of the patio and garage that's there with one to the south of the garage. And then we want to add a forest pansy as a sense of seasonal color and seasonal change and flower up in the upper corner of the courtyard. So we're attempting to kind of do native, drought tolerant. We've looked at all of the low willow type of plants that we can utilize in this setting with the shade and the sun. We want to preserve all the oak trees and really be sensitive and conscious about all the neighbors' issues that you saw today. But we feel like this plan, this landscape with this style of architecture is quite handsome and complimentary. We have a little fountain in the courtyard for just a little bit of white noise and sound to kind of, help the ambiance of this outdoor room to the entrance to the home. So I think that captures most of what we wanted to let you guys know about our changes from last time.
So I assume you're done, both of you, at this point?
Yeah,
I think that's enough.
I think it jumped to landscape, but I think it'd be helpful maybe to bring up the A4, the site images, just, you don't have to go through all of them, but there's a couple studies in there. So just just kind of before and after on the front facade. So I think
Yeah, there.
this point familiar. We've talked about, if the board still felt that visiting the site, that the amount of kind of interaction with the street and pavement was too much. We've talked about possibly being able to move the gate around to, the side parking area and enter off that. But I think it adds to the charm, and there's there's a gesture to me when there's a gate that sort of, rather than a hedge, that kind of feels like it connects with the community rather than closes it off. But I think that's an option if the board felt that was an improvement or a better option. This is, incorporating the story poles and our rendering model into the story pole views. So you can kind of see the before or the after and the before. This is that, the larger lower window, the ridge line you can definitely see in the story pole, but it's still very well screened. The kitchen window down below facing north. Keep going. Next, please. So this is just street views again. We saw those. Keep going. We just wanted to kind of do a little neighborhood study with 2 stories residences. There are a lot of single story residences, but there's also 5 or so 2-story residences in the immediate vicinity. So we just kind of wanted to point those out in terms of neighborhood context compatibility with what is being proposed here. I feel like we've done a good job of trying to avoid the suburban look, that sometimes a 2-story house with a 2-car garage could have. And I think that was a really important factor for us in the design approach. I think that should do it for us. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so Don, you were there at a site visit with us today. Comments, questions, please.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have questions.
Don?
My main question would be to Sam as to how effective would infilling the that south hedge, it's 15, 20 feet high. Can you add and feed and bring that back so it's more of a visual protection from the neighbor?
Yeah, I can't say as to how it's been kept in the past number of years, Don, but I do think that we can certainly supplement the ground fertilization of that. And if it were trimmed, say to, a height that was very meaningful, 16 feet, 18 feet, all that top leader would help energize the plant, lower leaves and infuse it to get denser and thicker. I do know that all over town, as an example, the Eugenia hedge, when they are trimmed, they just get more excited and the leaves and things do fill in and stay quite dense. That one is a little bit too tall and left to go at even in some cases 25 feet high. And so I think that's not been kept in a way that would encourage density. It's just wanting to kind of reach to the sky, so to speak. So I think if we do trim that, and then I don't know if infill, because I think that root area is full, but where we can, we'll be adding new in the open areas. But yes, that can certainly be invigorated, and it's got a great root system. It just needs to be trimmed from the top and it will fill out on the inside.
Okay, thank you.
Elida, questions?
No questions.
Tip?
Yes, I have some questions. Can you go back to the elevations, please, the exterior elevations? Yes, maybe the side elevation, the south. Okay, so my question, I can't tell too well from the drawings. How are you treating from the finished floor to the existing ground? What's that material?
Yeah, sorry, it's blurred out a little, but that's a sandstone veneer, like kind of a plinth foundation. So it, helps break up the massing of this taller structure. And I think we've tried to incorporate that vertically in terms of stepping and giving the height some relief with, staggering, offsetting the second floor from below, using the sandstone, base to further break it up.
So when you mention sandstone veneer, what are you, is it what? Doesn't look like Santa Barbara sandstone?
Yes, a Santa Barbara sandstone. Probably not a 5-point, but a.
But I guess my question had to do with the color, but it's not gray, isn't it?
It's just, it's a beige, gray, tan. There's a pretty good image there of our intention.
Because
Rectangular ashlar or something.
Yes.
yeah, because I mean, I'm pretty familiar with some of the sandstone. They're much more beige and gray. And when I look at the gray base, I was wondering what the material for that. Can I see that again, please? And then what? The fireplace comes out.
Yes, the fireplace projects out as an architectural feature and is of the same sandstone material.
For the floodplain elevation, how many feet did you raise the house?
Above the existing 3.5, I think it's just depends on it, the exact location, but between 4 and 5 feet at the worst section. 4 and 4.
33 feet is the established finished floor, 2 feet 2 feet higher than the floodplain.
Yeah, it's a BFE +2.
And the maximum height of the course was only 25, right?
That's correct.
And then you do a slope roof, so you went up to
28 for a 412 Orcs crater.
412. And how did you calculate it up to 28 feet from 25 feet based on what formula?
You mean that extra 3 feet? We project it from any point on the ground below the structure directly up. So, we kind of draw a line that follows the topo. We have to sort of connect the dots underneath the structure because there's an existing
Yeah, but
house
I
there.
guess my point is you're getting 3 feet because of the sloped roof.
Right, the slope roof allows us to have a gabled roof aesthetic versus a flat roof.
And also, you said the plate height for the first floor in the back is 9 feet. Plus
That's
a
correct. Yeah,
foot for framing.
Yeah, so where we're stacked, where we have 2 stories in the back, we have 9-foot ceilings, and then on the top floor we have 8-foot plate.
Okay. Do you have a site plan that shows the neighbors' houses?
I think Sam's plan on page 19 showed those pretty
The
well.
L3, I think Tip shows the footprints of the edges.
And there, yeah, see, there they are right there.
Or one.
Okay, so okay, go the other way. Oh, that's fine. I see. So that's the south, and then that's the
Yeah.
Yeah,
the west and the north. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Bill,
Yeah, on this spa that you have here, was there a requirement from flood that have to be raised as well? Because it's water, I mean, the equipment probably has to be up out of that line, but the spa itself could be low, could it not?
Yes, I believe it could be low.
And was there a reason why it was up high like that and instead of a stair leading down to it? On the lower level?
There is a stair down. I think we've talked about it both ways. So I don't think we're final. I think we're still kind of deliberating on whether that should be down. I think originally it kind of, there's tall, mature hedging, and it felt like you might be sort of, down in a hole, but I actually think it's a pretty space back there. And I think having it down a little closer to ground, maybe raised a little bit out, would be appropriate.
Okay.
As it's shown, Bill, it's shown to be kind of at the finish, a little below the finished floor level, flush to the deck. And it's at the same level as the living space. So you'd be a little bit above that little courtyard below you.
That's what I thought, yeah. The garage that you show there, that's on grade. You're not having to raise that because that can do flood vents, right?
Right, the garage will have to have flood vents. It's lower.
Yeah, it looks like on one of the elevations it was taller, but maybe that was just an illusion or something. Because that center patio, is that raised a little bit?
Yeah, the center patio is raised up a little, so that the height of the garage was determined with coordination with our civil engineer in terms of our relationship to the street. So, the garage opening is at street level, which is a little bit up from ground level at the back of the garage. And so that we want to, the patio behind the garage raised up to accommodate being able to park a car, walk out of the back of the garage and into the kitchen.
So there's the site kind of sits a little bit in a hole, Bill, and we wanted 2% fall coming out the front of the garage door, so that its relationship to the street would be kind of protected in terms of water flow. So that area is a little higher and it's a little lower. You see the number of steps kind of coming out of the courtyard by the sycamore. It's a little raised, but that's based on the relationship of the garage to Humphrey Road being slightly higher for positive drainage towards the road.
So this will be kind of graded down to a low spot on either side then is what's going to happen. Maybe you'll have retaining or something there or something rolling down.
Yeah, it's taller to the north. So you can see that. And then, you're right. You can see our 30-foot topo there. There'll be a little bit of fill to shoulder out the southern edge of the driveway.
A little more than a foot above that point there. And at this point, you're going to, all of this is going to be backfilled. You're not doing a raised foundation and having flood vents. You're just going to backfill that
Yeah,
building.
that's the goal. We've been coordinating with structural and flood on that. So because it has a small footprint, it's fairly economical, and it allows you to not have, flood venting. And
So you'll be importing a lot of fill dirt to kind of build this up, it sounds like. Did you do a calculation of the net amount of fill dirt you're bringing in?
I don't know if that's broken down separately on the grading plan. Maybe we can see that.
Oh, is that another sheet?
Yeah.
All right.
think
Well,
it's-
I mean, he's here for conceptual, let's,
Yeah, we can look at that next time.
Page 2 of syllabus, 500.
201.
Page 2 of syllabus.
Oh, okay. Page 2 on the civil plans, yeah, would have that.
And I don't know where that.
I think they're in our main, they should be at the back of our.
Well, that's not super critical at this point. And then the last question was this light fixture that have you.
Yeah.
Does that actually shield light? I mean, it looks like you're seeing a hot spot here, but maybe you don't. I don't know. I must have to see one of those to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they sent us we were communicating with this company about dark sky, and they say that they make this cover that covers the light source and it's dark sky compliant. So we didn't have a picture of it, so this was our just kind of to convey the concept of that.
I'd like to see a little more information on that at some point. So anyway, okay, that was all I had. Thank you.
Claire,
John,
Yeah.
can I ask two more questions? I
Sure.
didn't. Just a question about the setback. Back to the site plan, Danny, what is the side yard setback towards the south?
It is, I think it's 8'4", and that's based on the 10% width.
I mean the south, 8'4".
Yes,
And is the living room is is that exactly 8'4"?
yeah, I think we encroach by, I believe, 6 inches. It's on our plan. We do the offset calculations for the give and take of a small side yard.
So the living room is encroaching to it a little bit, and same with the chimney.
Yes, the chimney.
Okay, and then I want to ask you this question. I assume that on the second floor, do you have any views on the second floor toward the mountain or the ocean?
No, it's not a view. The main views are from the kitchen up to the mountains, because there's really nothing to the north of us. So a high window there.
And then my last question is, have you looked at, because I know the site pretty tight, and I know the second floor is pretty small, right? It's only 700 square feet.
Yes.
Have you looked at the massing of the second floor going west to east instead of north to south in the middle of the site?
I mean, there is a gable that runs east-west. So there's kind of both that comes, as those, if you see on the elevation or roof
I'm
plan.
talking about like the longest, which is right now going from north to south.
Mhm.
I'm just a question,
Yeah.
Have you looked at the going?
I mean, we did study that in model. We've studied them both. The challenge with that is when you pull it in and you've got the gable below, that the roof below starts to come up high and above the sill heights, because you've got the footprint below. It's just tricky because we're trying to integrate it into the roof design and not make it feel cohesive. When you rotate it, you'll see like the roof, the pitched roof on the lower level comes up pretty high where you need some windows for a bedroom requirement. But I do think we have some room to resize the windows on bedroom. Well, all the bedrooms really. We've got more than enough.
This one may be an egress issue here, though.
Yeah, I mean, we'd still have to meet egress, but we have more than what's required for egress right now.
That's all I have, John. Thank you.
Claire,
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, actually, oddly, I have a question for Sam. Can we go to Sam's plan, please? Great. Sam, if the great wisdom of the board was that a two-story solution is going to be troublesome, could this be organized to create a greater connection with that tree as a single-story solution, connecting to the tree in that landscaping which says gravel walk and things like that? If so, why? If not, why not, please?
One more time, John, I couldn't hear exactly the finishing question.
The question is, if this was a single-story solution, if you were required to do that,
Okay.
connecting between the garage and the main residence, filling that in, would that create a more intimate connection between the people's living experience and that wonderful tree and that other area, or not? In your opinion, could it do that, please?
Well, I think you're saying if that porch had a roof and the garage, everything was interconnected as interior.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I think the magic of that property, John, is when you first walk in, you get a sense of all the canopy and all the trees and the height of the trunks of the adjoining oaks and palms and sycamores. So if you put a roof over that patio,
And eliminate the second story.
yeah, but I think that whole courtyard experience would be walled in and you wouldn't get the same sense of space and of air and of nature that you kind of get now, because you'd be underneath another eave and another roof. So I being an outdoor guy, I think this outdoor solution room is really what you'd want to have for this kind of environment.
Okay, thank you very much, Sam. And Danny.
Yeah,
What?
Oh, I thought I was answering the same question.
No, I have another.
Okay, go ahead.
The board currently has two projects on Orchard Avenue that are basically across the street from each other, that are two-story solutions, and those two projects cumulatively stand a very good chance of changing the character of that entire street. Why would your project not set the precedent, given the 4 feet that you're required to come in at plus the 2 stories for the entire street? Why would that not happen? And wouldn't that not preserve the neighborhood character that we have, please?
Yeah, we have studied a single story option, and it's much like what you said, kind of filling in, it's like an L shape.
Right.
I think our struggle with that and our fear of that was that we have 107-foot long linear structure along that side yard, and that whole structure is raised 4 feet above ground, so it's about 1.5 stories, and it just seems like that type of massing, that scale of structure is not compatible with the neighborhood. And we felt this sort of like a miniature approach where you stack and you terrace up from the street level with small structures, cottage-like, to a front porch that's 4 feet up, to a single story, to a small second story was, just the most appropriate use of this property and the compatibility of this property from the street frontage, and viewing from the street. And again, it was very clear to us that this front yard, the existing visual impact of this front yard to the street was very minimal in terms of its connection to the street and the foliage and the trees, and we just felt it was really important to preserve that. We felt like that was a priority to the neighborhood compatibility.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, now it is time for public comment. Please be clear, concise, and complete. We normally limit it to 3 minutes, and I will try to enforce that. And I understand we have 3 or 4. Sharon, can you?
Well, right now we have 2 people whose hands are up, and we'll start with Jason Jager.
And you are directly to the south, is that correct, Mr. Jager?
Yes, if you can
Okay.
hear me and see me, yes.
Okay, I cannot see your picture, but I can see your hand. 3 minutes, please.
Okay, MBAR members, Mr. Sharp, Mr. and Mrs. Tudor, thanks for the opportunity to speak here. So as was that John that just mentioned, I have the single family house directly behind, kind of towards the creek from the Tudor's house. And I'm just going to kind of get to the points here. Well, first off, I want to thank the Tudors and their team for meeting with me. That was very neighborly, and I do respect their approach. The invasive to privacy in our residence, we're a single story of, wife and kids. It kind of has a guard tower type feel that kind of looks down throughout pretty much our whole property. So it really changes the look and feel and character of our property. So, myself and my neighbors included, we've all been talking, I'd like for the Tudors to put, their self in our shoes if all of a sudden there's, very large residence on it's the second floor that I have the issue. I want to be clear. I want the Tudors to remodel their house, do everything they're allowed to do in the zoning, but how it's pulled to the very back of the property versus like towards the center or more towards the street, which is more consistent with other second story homes on Humphrey. That seems to me like that would be a logical solution. I also have concern of the natural light, the morning light coming off from our property with some shadowing towards the south side. We have great morning light. And the landscaping that Sam was talking about, I've spoke with Sam. We're talking to go 30 feet tall to get some type of screen, and Eugenia's are 6 feet tall. I mean, we're talking, we need like major tree installation. So I don't feel we've had talks, but there's not been a solution that we have come up with that has addressed the tall height of the building. So my solutions are, if possible, if they want to do a second story, move to the center of the property. I would approve landscaping to begin immediately with massive trees to shield it. And, I'm just bummed that it's going to really impact our property, but I understand that, people have rights with their property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Sharon, is there somebody else, please?
There is. Thank you, John. Mr. Rabin, can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, yeah, I'm unmuted and thank you for this forum to allow us to voice our opinion here. I would like all of you to look at that south side, and that is my residence that is directly south to that largest part and over 93 panels of windows facing me. Why am I privileged to get master bedrooms, kitchen, bathroom, everything looking right on top of me and my family in our yard? The second story is not a necessary element. They have plenty of room in the front to keep it down to one story. This does not go with the configuration or the type of neighborhood we live in. This is a semi-historic neighborhood. What John Watson brought up, boy, I fully support. He made some really good points. It's very easy to make an L there. I disagree with Sam, who I've known for a long time. How is that going to really impact the approach and the view walking onto that property? The elevation alone, because of this 4-foot requirement, where they start there, you're popping a building up 28 feet. That's like a 3-story office building looking down on me and my family. I don't think there's been any consideration when you look at all those windows. I mean, look at that. I'm looking directly at that. And if you go to the slide that shows the proximity of the 2 residences on my property, it's smack in our face. There's no consideration of privacy here. And you have a fireplace, a chimney that is stepping over the easement as well. And the wind blows south here and it blows northeast, it blows everywhere. I don't want soot from that thing coming onto my property as well, which is fully drought proof, with a synthetic lawn. You're adding a bigger building that's going to also cause more water consumption. And I commend all of you on your opening comments with regard to supporting sustainability. I don't see it going on here if this type of structure gets approved for this neighborhood. And the amount of two-story houses that are fully set back on Humphrey Road represent 5 to 7% of the neighborhood. This is really an uncalled for addition. It's oversized for this property. And in concluding, again, I ask you to put yourself in my shoes. If you live next door to this, that Eugenia that was planted there was not approved by me. And it drops more debris and staining debris, purple debris, all over the place for 4 months every year. It is an entire mess to clean up. Those are unruly plants. You could see right through them. There's going to be lighting coming from that massive structure. It's too much. I don't mind if he keeps it 1 story. I told the tutors that. Don't mind at all, even though it's still 4 feet higher than what it was. I can live with that. And of course, a reduction in the size and the amount of the windows. I mean, at a minimum, why not switch it from east to west to east? Look at the gap between that house and my houses compared to the other side. Much bigger gap. Put your bathroom and your window, everything over there. Look at how close it is to my line compared to the other side, on the south side versus the north side.
John?
Mr. Raby, can you wrap it up, please?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'll wrap it up. I would say, spin it around, remove the 2nd story, make it a 1-story dwelling, and that's acceptable in this neighborhood. There are a lot of people opposed to this structure. It is way too tall.
Okay, Sharon, thank you, Mr. Raven. Is there anybody else, Sharon?
There's one more person. Dana, can you unmute yourself, please?
Hi, yeah, this is actually, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
This is Aaron Seltzer. I'm here with my wife, Dana Seltzer, and we live at 49 Humphrey Road.
And where's that, please?
It's just the house a bit north, the other side of the driveway of the Jaegers property.
Okay.
The driveway, and we're down that flag lot.
Okay.
So again, we're in support of people doing renovations to their homes, and I understand that completely. Our objection is really to the height of the house from our property, which faces the ocean, faces south. We stare now directly at the flagpoles as I'm talking to you right now, and I understand that people do have rights to build 2nd stories and whatnot. However, this is very tall and intrusive. It overlooks directly into our home. It blocks. I literally woke up this morning to see like how our morning is when the sun rises, and it literally will block the view of the morning sun coming in. And I have serious concerns that certain times of year, it's going to literally cast shadows from that sort of taller 2nd story over our house. So our objection really is how intrusive it's going to become to our home. And again, we're not against the tutors doing work to their home. I would support obviously the 1-story solution, or perhaps as was suggested, doing more of a east-west versus north-south 2nd story if it comes down to that. But something that pleases the tutors, but also doesn't cause so much comfort to all the neighbors on Humphrey Road, and also in keeping with the character of Humphrey Road, which is a very, very modest neighborhood. So I just hope everyone takes that into consideration to make decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sharon, is there anybody else, please?
No, would anyone else like to speak? Please raise your hand and we can call on you. No, John. Here we go. Well.
No, that's the wife of who just spoke, isn't it?
Well, she has a right to speak. Would you like
Oh,
to?
I understand, but yeah.
Do you want to speak? No.
Okay, very good. Thank you all. So I'm going to close public comment. We are on for concept today. There will be no motions. There will be no approvals or denials or anything like that. We're still in the chatting stage. So Don, comments, please.
Thank you. I must start out by saying that I personally think the two-story option is far superior for the neighbors and the neighborhood than spreading twice as much or almost twice as much structure over the remaining portion of the lot and losing landscaping, losing a lot of valuable outdoor space that the neighbors can look down upon and not have building there. It's, it's a very difficult decision on our part, but I just firmly believe that the two-story addition, possibly with some fenestration, reorganization, and talking with the neighbors regarding particular areas that you don't want a second floor looking down upon you is quite possible. And so if it's a one-story, two-story, my vote goes with the two-story. I think that neighborhood as it's developed in the future will be just like this. And I think that this cottage feel of a rather small appearing home is very important.
So
Thank you.
Don, can I conclude from this that with fenestration changes, potentially you would vote for this project? Is that fair to assess or not?
I would vote for a two-story. I think that there's a lot of neighborhood concerns that have to be met, but with the premise that it's a two-story, that changes pretty much everything.
Okay, Elida, please.
Well, if we look at this site layout, there's 6 houses, 5 of which are one story. The gentleman to the south has 2-story, but the rest of these are as originally designed cottage, beach cottages, charming, old world, and I can't support a second story. It impacts 5 other homes in any direction, so I couldn't support a second story.
Thank you. Is that it, Elida?
Yes.
Tip, please.
Well, I look at this project and I think obviously there are many nice features. For example, I don't mind the garage. I think that's a site nicely. I think the additional parking is also nice. It's kind of disappear with gravel path coming in. I think the front is looking nice. Either you put the front gate right on Humphrey Road or you go to the side. It probably doesn't bother me that much because that's the character of the neighborhood. And then, it's a 2-story house, and personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with a 2-story house. It just makes it challenging because of the, you have to raise it, 4 feet because of floodplain. So it did change everything in my mind on how you treat this parcel, which make it much more difficult because of that factor. And then we look at this neighborhood here, we see a 1-story on top, couples 1-story behind. Then when you go to the south, there's actually already a 2-story house. And the windows of that house also looking down to this side, to the front yard. So it's definitely, it's a 2-story, I don't have a problem. And I'm glad that the applicants, go with a small 2-story portion. 700 square feet is not that much. I just believe that maybe the site planning had to be, there's many ways that you can come up with a design that works for the owners, still have a 2-story and still work. And as Mr. Watson mentioned earlier, what about the area between the main portion of the patio? And I was thinking, that'd probably be an ideal location for a 2-story portion. If you want to consider a 2-story portion. It's about the same size as a current 2-story. You can put 700 square feet right in easily. And that probably will be, it will be, workable, and it doesn't get into anyone's view. So that's one of the potential options I could see. And secondly, when you do a 2nd story, sometimes you do because you don't have enough land or you want to capture some kind of views, and per the applicant, there's not really any views from the 2nd floor. So it's really a design solution here on how to make everything work. So, and last, I definitely would not support any encroachment to side yard setback on this low, especially how tight it is on the south with the chimney and the living room. And so it's, it's approvable, but I think that's a better solution. And I'm not against a 2-story portion. But I also have a concern about how you're treating the main floor and the ground. I think that it might be a little too heavy to do a sandstone base all the way up 4 feet tall. It might almost like you're lifting the house off the ground, which you are, and sitting on a solid block of stone. And that might be clashing with the design for the house, the exterior design. So that's one of the things I'd like you to take a look at and maybe find a better way to address that issue. How the house sitting above ground. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, please.
Yeah, first of all, the style of the architecture is great. I think it's fitting with the neighborhood in terms of the character, the windows and the finish and the materials. So I think that's good. It's clearly a challenging lot because, it's a small lot to begin with. You've got an easement and you've got flood issues there. So you've got and you've got trees. If it was an empty slate and you had all that land to work with, it'd be a totally different story. So you've got some constraints there certainly to deal with. I commend you for, certainly working with trying to keep these trees. These are great. They're beautiful. I like the entry. I like the garage. I'm okay with the gate there, frankly, and the little gravel pullout. That doesn't bother me. And I think what I would consider you looking at or suggest you look at is the idea of maybe reducing even further the upper floor. I know it's not that big right now, but maybe there's a way to add a little bit downstairs and take a little bit up of the upper off and reduce that, work with neighbors and views and try to, whether it gets centered or maybe the 2nd story stacks in a different area, consider that. Maybe it's a half and half. I'm not opposed to a 2nd story in that neighborhood because this house here is as high as yours. You've got the flood to deal with as well. So it's a challenge for you. But that being said, we want to respect the neighbor's views and privacy, and maybe there's a way to center that upper floor in the middle and make it a little smaller, and then maybe the downstairs grows a little bit. I would certainly hope that you could keep as much ground, garden, courtyard area that you and Sam have generated and done a wonderful job of. If you could maintain as much of that, obviously, as you can. And areas that are noise generating, things like spas and decks, a spa at a higher elevation is going to probably generate a little more sound than one that's down on the ground. So I would definitely look at areas like that. So I think there's some work to be done. I think, generally, probably you're going to be the house is going to be set back here because of your trees and your garden. So I think it's just sort of reworking this massing of the main residence and maybe finding a better fit for the 2nd floor by reducing it in some fashion and then reorienting it maybe even as well. Those are my comments.
Generally speaking, you can find support for a 2nd story, maybe not exactly, but you can find support.
I can, yeah. I think maybe to reduce it a little more, maybe it's just the master and maybe a master and a retreat. And I would say, you know, looking at the floor plan, that none of what you're proposing is over and above what would be a normal home. You know, I mean, the room sizes aren't massive, and you're not, you know, it's not 5 bedrooms, and so I think it's a modest, certainly request for house. So I think and the fact that you got 9-foot plate on the lower and only an 8 on the upper, you know, I think you're trying to do what you can to try and reduce it. So yeah, I can support a 2-story and maybe slightly modified and adjusted.
Thank you, Bill. Claire, please.
Well, I absolutely would support a 2-story building here. I think, you know, there are other 2 stories as you walk up and down, because I parked in the wrong place this morning. You can see that, you know, and many of those are positioned back away from the road, you know, so that, you know, and this particular site for me, is quite lovely, that with all of what the owners are proposing as far as keeping all of this tree canopy. It's like when you're standing on the road, looking back through all of that to this 2-story building. I don't find the 2-story building a problem at all for me. You know, I think it's just, and you know, yes, it may be a little taller because of what flood control has done, you know, but I think the design of this building is great. And I also support Bill's comment that maybe it's just in the amount of reducing the 2nd-story square footage, whatever. I don't have the site, I don't have the floor plan in front of me, so I'm not quite sure, you know, but that maybe that, I think it for me, the design is great. It's just figuring out so you've got all those bedrooms up there, and you've got 1, 2, 3 bathrooms. Okay, here's the deal. You need to get rid of some of those bathrooms, make the 2nd story smaller and more compact. And, you know, so, because personally, I don't think anybody needs 3 bathrooms on the 2nd story. That's my personal thing. You know, I live in a house that is very small, you know, and I don't need to have 3 bathrooms, a bathroom for every bedroom. You know, I don't believe in that. It's a philosophy thing. I just think it's ridiculous. In Montecito, everybody seems to have 1 bedroom with a bathroom. And I think that upper story could be redesigned so that it's more, as some of the architects have said, it's more compact, you know, and then it wouldn't be a problem for the neighbors. No, or maybe it would still be a problem. I don't know. But that's my take, is I think it's just a matter of keeping the 2nd story, but just reducing the size of it, you know, and maybe get rid of one of those bathrooms. Maybe they don't need that. Maybe it's a guest room or whatever, you know, but that's up to them. But I think this is absolutely appropriate and compatible with the neighborhood, which in my world is Humphrey Road, because there's many, well, I don't know, there's like 8 or 10 of them, you know, and actually many of the buildings across the street, you know, some of them are 1-story, 2, but they're much taller than this building is ever going to be. So that's my take on it. I'm absolutely in favor. It would destroy this lot to a sit down, because the neighbors don't happen to like the 2nd story. Sorry, you know, this owner has the right to build what he wants to build. And I think he's done a great job, and his team have been a great job. And if it's just about the 2nd story, Danny, just figure out how to make that a more compact issue on top of the 2nd story. You know. And I'm not an architect, obviously. So you know, but you've got a lounge in there. You don't need a lounge, you know, get rid of, you know, the lounge. I mean, you can make it smaller. That's what I'm trying to point to, is I think it just make it smaller, more compact, you know. That's it. Other than that, I think this is a delightful project, and I think, some of the comments that have been made by the neighbors are inaccurate. I mean, it's like the one neighbor to the back, it's like, he's got a huge oak tree that covers his property, so it's not going to impact him that much to see one little corner of it up the story, So that's, I love this project and I'm very in favor of it.
Thank you, Claire. Okay, we are still a concept. So I'd like to chat a little bit. I have lived in a number of different places over the years. Stay where you are, Bill, please. And one of the houses that I lived in, which was remarkable, it had 2 stairways to the second story, and therefore enabled it to have 2 areas that were very distinct from it. If it were possible to take some of like bedroom 3, bath 3, etc., and put it somewhere else, maybe covered porch. I'm reminded of the house down in Pasadena, the Gamble House, that has a second story covered porch on the first floor that's still open, but a second story. They think some of that was used for a sleeping porch, but some of it is covered. Also, the houses in Newport that were designed back in the early 1900s, 1920, that area, had rooms above covered porches. I think that, and therefore push that up towards the, now can we go to the site plan, please? One of Sam's plan, yeah. You see where it says main porch? Somehow slip it in over that and have the porch, but have a building up on top of it. I think that might be a solution, and therefore get rid of some of that second story down on the south side of the property. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but I would encourage you to at least consider it. I think one of the other things that's really driving this project, somebody, I think maybe it was Sam, was talking about the constraints on the project. One of the major constraints is that silly easement that's up there on the north side.
Yeah.
That is an egregious amount of area. Now, I believe, I don't know, that 100% of the people that control that easement are attending this Zoom conference. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Maybe only a portion of them are. It would seem to me, and the fire department's going to get their flesh in here too, their pound of flesh. But if there was some way to take that easement and slide it to the north, even 5 feet, that would be able to enable the applicant to reorganize the property, get it off the south property line, maybe reduce some things in some other way. So since we are still at concept, I would love to see them explore that. Now, people can't achieve things or don't want to achieve things, and this project may very well come back this way. I would hope that they would explore some options, but it may come back this way. If it did, I am concerned about setting a precedent that's going to exist for the rest of the street, but the house directly to the south is 2-story. They do not have the additional problem called the flood control. But if they ever do any kind of meaningful improvements, they will. There's a property almost directly across the street, but slightly to the north. It's up fairly high. It is 1-story, but it has an extremely steep roof. So will it inevitably and detrimentally affect the area to approve this plan? People pointing to it and say, if you can approve the Todd residence, you have to approve ours. I'm not so sure that water hasn't already gone under this bridge. So, or the horse is out of the barn, or whatever analogy you want. So I think I could support this. I don't think Danny's got it yet. I would ask him and Sam to explore some options. I would hope the neighbors would chat about this easement. I know we're on concept, so we have no motion, and I do want to say something to the neighbors. We are one body. If you strongly disagree with our vote when we finally take it, you can appeal this to the Planning Commission and have another hearing. So I just want to make sure you know that that is available to you. Not today, it will be at the time we vote for preliminary, but I think I have said everything I need to say. Is there anybody else that would like to talk, please? Are we good?
Yeah.
Danny, Sam, thank you very much. Good luck with this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 5, 768 Elia Lane. Anybody here for that? From William Hefner Studios. We had 2 very wonderful
Yes.
people. Who's with us today?
What just
please?
happened?
Okay, so it'll,
ahead.
hi,
William, is that
yes.
you?
That's me. It should be,
Hang on, I've got minutes to read, please.
okay.
Site visit and story polls required, which we did, provide an FAR study, which was done, and there was a memo to that effect. Provide project's context with the site and the neighborhood. FAR very large. When you miscalculate it, project may not be approved until you look at it correctly calculated. So William, would you like, shall we read the memo? Did everybody get a chance to read that memo?
No, I didn't read the memo.
Okay, so there's a memo on here. Bill?
There it is.
Yes, there it is. Can you blow it up?
Yeah, it's a Word document.
Yeah, our favorite. Okay, so if people don't mind, I'm going to basically summarize this thing. There are exceptions to the FAR calculation when it's fully buried and things of that nature. The applicant did not get that shown to their best advantage on the last calculation. They have now gone over it very carefully with the planner. I'm going to take, I think it's a her, I'm not sure. I'm going to take that, it looks like maybe Sean, so maybe it's a he. Their calculations now appear to show, is it 105, William? The
Yes,
FAR,
correct.
105. Okay.
101, I believe.
101.
Okay, so it has to do with the way basements are calculated. So William, with that, that is in our file if you want to take a look at it. William,
Okay.
the floor is yours, please.
All right, thank you. So we came to you several months ago and people are having trouble understanding the project and thought a site visit and sort of more development would help them to understand the project better. Also in the time that we've seen you, that we've been to HLAC for historic review, as this house, the existing building and the current buildings occupy a portion of what was a larger property that originally developed in 1907 and later developed after a fire on the site. So we met with them and we reviewed with them our goal to keep a couple of the sort of garden fragments that are there and sort of the interest of the continuity and history on the project, and they agreed. We also, you visited the site today, so you're able to see the scale of the main building, which is at the center of it, but we're proposing addition above in sort of an unexcavated or an excavated area, I guess, excavated area uphill of the existing one-story building. That this addition includes a master bedroom, a great room, and a kitchen, and then a new accessory building. We're tearing down the existing ADU and putting a pool cabana there. And we've worked out garden and landscaping plan that sort of connects the new structures with these older fragments. So into sort of a cohesive whole that we like and the owners are excited about. So Melissa's going to kind of walk us through sheet by sheet, but that's our project so far. So Want to go, Melissa?
Okay. Yeah, so here is the proposed site plan. I don't know if you can see, but dashed in red is the area of the ADU that we're demolishing. And then over at the main house, we're dashing in the upper level that was constructed in 2006 by Jacques Schul. We'll be demolishing that upper level and constructing an addition at the upper level of about 2,910 square feet. The lower level is being retained, which is about 2,225 square feet, which was a fragment from the original estate built in 1918 and was later converted into a residence in 1976. The upper level addition is actually set forward away from the existing lower level to maintain the existing terrace, and also so that we do not surcharge the existing foundations of the lower level. Where we're building the pool cabana, we designed that in order to conform to the front yard setbacks, as well as this trellis that will align with the axial nature of the existing gardens. The pool that we are proposing is replacing an existing fountain that is no longer historically relevant. And we've designed it to complement the existing octagonal arrangement of the axial garden. Lastly, for fire truck access, there is a driveway along the south edge of the property line so they can pull in and back out. And we've already received preliminary approval from the fire department. If you go to page 9. You can see the site sections. So this top section is cutting through the upper story or the upper level addition. It's just a single story from where we're cutting it with a crawl space below. And then below this section, you can see where the existing lower level is at the lower grade, and then the above is our addition at the higher grade. And then the cabana towards the front of the property. Go ahead, William.
So I would just add that our goal in this addition is really to pull the house and the site together in a way that this can seem like the original plan, that it doesn't feel remodeled, that it feels symmetrical, logical, and enjoys the use of the site. So
if you go to the next page, this is the proposed floor plan at the top and the existing below. You can see we're just remodeling, demolishing the portions that relate to the upper level above, and providing new access on the far right up to the upper level addition. And you can see where we dashed in where the upper level sort of sits in relation to the lower level. If you go to the next page, this is the upper level addition. You can see it's pretty simple. We have a central vaulted space, living dining room, a kitchen wing on the right with a stairway that provides access to the existing lower level. And then to the left is the master suite. And then if you go to the next is the roof plan. So that central living room space has a vaulted ceiling with a hipped roof. And then the two wings on either side will have flat roofs. And then over the master, we're proposing a roof deck. And the existing trellis, we are preserving that, the one that is at the very end of the terrace. And then we can go to the next plan. So this is the existing ADU that will be demolished. This is our proposed cabana, which is replacing the ADU. It's just a simple structure with a hipped roof, with arched doors to sort of relate to the existing lower level of the main house. We have a office, a lounge, and a bar. It's really more for entertaining at the pool area, and a trellis that aligns with the axial gardens. This is the existing elevations, and these are the proposed elevations of the main house. And you can see we have a diagram on the lower right corner that shows how the addition relates to the existing lower level. So purple is the addition and white is existing.
Oh, Bill, can we,
Go ahead.
Claire?
I just wanted you to stay still for a minute so I could actually look at these.
Yeah, so you can see at the top elevation, that lower level, we're retaining all of the openings with the arches, the stairway, and then above is the addition with that vaulted central space in the middle and the 2 flat roof wings on either side.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Keep going.
And here's some renderings. This is a view from the front of the house, of the upper level addition. As you can see, you just see the upper level. You can't see the existing lower level. And then this is the view from the rear. You can see the lower level, which is remaining, and then the upper level addition beyond. And we have proposing a covered patio as well at the upper level addition. And below is the view of the cabana with the axial. You can see the existing garden walls and the new pool with the angled edges that sort of relate to the garden space. It's another view of the cabana with that central fountain that's existing. So we're retaining that because it does have some historic significance. And you can see how the new cabana is designed in a way that relates to those existing walls. So we've worked hard to design a project that meets both the functional needs of our client and is also respectful of the historic elements on site. Our style is sort of a nod to the lower level, that remaining fragment that's Mediterranean in style. And I will let Dennis, our landscape architect, present the conceptual planting plan.
Dennis?
Yes, hi. I'm the host disabled my participant screen sharing.
Oh, did you?
It's rare that
No,
we
but they,
have, it's
Dennis,
rare that we
they
have
have
somebody.
Yeah,
Oh, there
they
it is.
can, yeah, they can put the landscape plan.
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Great. So, yes, definitely love the old elements of the old Montcito estate from early 1900s. We'd like to keep the spirit of the old Montecito estate, and also with just the idea of, I guess the concept at this point is having like a garden around the main lawn at Lotus Land with the cycad and palms. So we're keeping all the trees and adding these elements that are existing, and also with the axial elements that are existing, we like to reinforce that with couple the spa and extra water feature, and also just the pathways and walkways throughout the garden. We're keeping
What we tried to do, sorry, Dennis, but yeah, what we've tried to do where this diagonal axis between the 2 fountain elements was very strong, we tried to mirror that axis opposite the other side and create a central axis that connects the main house and pool together, along with sort of large stands of palm trees and that. So that's our kind of unifying principle. So, okay.
Yes, and we're retaining all the existing trees on the site. Adding some more that complement them, the existing ones with the same species. And there's a cluster of existing Mexican fan palms that we would like to relocate on the site.
Yeah, I think that that's probably a good intro for conceptual. So
Very good. Thank you, William.
okay.
You're ready. You're done, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Alida, please.
Bill, can we go back to that landscape plan that we're just looking at?
Are we in questions, John, or comments now?
Did I say comments? I meant questions.
I don't know. I'm just asking that question. I'm trying to get
questions. Alida, please.
Okay,
I see the pool. What is that other, is that another water element farther down? Is that water?
Yeah, that's an existing circular fountain that we are retaining on site.
Well, it's a lot to take in. That's to the right and upper, all that green is that all lawn? Those rectangular
around the swimming pool is lawn, and the same color that's yes, in that location, that is lawn too.
Well, the pool is to the left of this drawing, right? That's lawn. I was talking far to the right, these rectangular and square patches.
Oh, on the far right, those existing gardens that we're retaining.
But we're not planting lawn in there. We're planting other vegetation. So.
Right. Big project. That's all the questions I have.
Claire, questions?
Yeah, is the overhang on the small building that's going to be rehabbed the same as the overhang on the main building? Okay, so yeah, so this is the main building and it has that overhang. If you go to the Cabana building, it seemed, here it is right there. So those two overhangs are different. Is that correct?
Yes, the cabana has a shallower overhang.
Okay. And then I notice in the landscape plan, you have a lot of, I guess it's sandstone paving, all of this. Is there some reason that you, on the site visit, when we saw that there was most of it was done with red brick? So my question is, why did we change the historical fabric to this is in the landscape world, this broken up sandstone, that's a very contemporary look. So I'm just asking you, why did you go in that direction, landscaper?
So I guess I can answer that, but for the palette, we didn't want to be tied to the red, the palette of red, and we didn't see the brick. We like the idea of using the sandstone so that we could have planting coming up through it everywhere. So I guess I don't know if I see it as being so modern, the use of the sandstone, but so the garden kind of comes
I'm just comparing it to the fact that this is a historical site, in some ways it, so, and you're coming in with new contemporary, in my opinion, very contemporary instead of a historic site that's been there since the beginning of the century. So that's why I'm asking that question.
Yeah. So the bricks are not historic. And then the other thing is the house was originally built as a Tudor house. And then after the fire in the 1920s, it was rebuilt as a Mediterranean house. And so, it's been a mix of things in the past. This is sort of our palette of materials we have salvaged roof tiles and a lighter palette, Santa Barbara sandstone walls, some limestone paving and then some kind of flagstone paving in the areas that are kind of softer type paths. But that's our thought for the material palette for the site.
That's all I have, John.
Bill, please.
Is the driveway that is coming in on this end, is that new or is there a driveway there now?
There is access there currently. So
already
we're just revising it. So
And
it's,
is there a gate on that too, or?
yes, there is a gate there.
Okay, but that's more of a service entrance kind of a thing? Is that what that's gonna be, or?
Yeah, it'll mostly be for the fire department. And yeah,
Mhm.
probably staff.
Some guest parking or something at times, but yeah, it's a back entrance essentially.
Will you be replacing gates along those at some point in your design here? I suspect, or are they all?
No, it's
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Are you going
What's
to
the question?
be redoing the gates there at the entry?
I would say likely yes.
Okay.
the entry to the property or the
Yeah.
entry to the
Yeah,
driveway?
both gates.
The auto gates, yes.
And then, yeah, as you said, the finishes here, you're going to go to maybe more of a limestone and away from the brick. It looks like you have flagstone and brick and DG, and then
Yeah, see, here's the brick. There's the brick one right there.
yeah, and you got cut stone, and then you got terracotta tile, and so you're going to try and unify that. Is that the plan?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And a lot of this stuff is the fountain is going to all stay. That's historic.
Yes, the step fountain, right.
And what's the plate height of the residential addition? What of that upper floor there? Is that marked on here?
The larger volume room.
Oh, okay, yeah. What's the plate of that? I mean, it says 19.6. What's that plate height?
1410 is the plate height.
1410. Are these 10-foot doors then? 10-foot doors?
I want to say maybe 11.
12.
12, okay.
12. All right. Okay. All right. That was all. Thank you.
Don.
Okay.
Don.
Thank you.
Questions?
One quick question. How far is the guest house or the pool house glass recessed beyond into the exterior wall?
I think we're going to have like a 1 foot thick overall wall, so maybe 6 inches plus or minus with the steel windows, that kind of recess.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have no questions. Thank you.
I have several. Who was the original architect, and then what happened in the 20s after the fire? Who was the architect then? Do you know that, William?
We
do have a whole historic.
Is it anybody that we know about?
So we don't have the original architect.
Okay, but that building is basically gone. What about the so-called Mediterranean?
So Russell Ray redesigned the estate in 1923 after the fire destroyed the original estate.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Can we see the pool cabana, please? The elevations for that, please.
Yeah.
If I were to say to you that I felt that these elevations were inconsistent, particularly with, I guess it's the east elevation, that 2-story step back, because of the massing and the way in which this fenestration related to the roof, would you have a comment about that? Because of its sloping roof, would you have a comment about that?
Like, I think if we were literally matching sort of the vocabulary of our addition on the other side, we'd go without a pitched roof. And we had that scheme for a while. However, the owners really liked the tiles, the salvage tiles, and this color palette over in this side. So it doesn't match it literally. The walls and the way that fenestration and grills are made does, but not the roof.
Okay, very good. And I assume you are aware that we are in a drought, and I furthermore assume that you know that pool water is at least being discouraged, if not prohibited. If that's true, as we go forward, what would you do with what looks like 4 or 5 different water features on your property, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Well, I mean, we understand the current restriction is you can do a pool that has to be filled with water from outside the area, which we have a couple pools we've done that way. But yeah, it was important to the historic people that the round fountain stayed as a fountain. Owners want a swimming pool and a spa, which are the two left-hand elements, and the little one on the far right is a small dribbler of a fountain. So I don't know. That's what we have at the moment. If things change as far as that, we might. But that's those are what are important to us at the moment. So.
Public comment. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 6, 1, 6, 8? Whoops. Item number 5, 7, 6, 8, Elia Lane, please. Anybody? Thank you, Sharon. Okay, comments, please. Back through the same source. Elida, please. We are on for concept. No motions today.
It's a huge project. It's beautifully designed. I love the design of the house. It's the whole carbon footprint thing is problematic, but I don't know what we're all going to do about that. I don't know what we're going to do about it. But that's my only comment.
Claire, please.
Yeah, no, I actually really like the project. I just would like to get the overhang consistent between the two new buildings. It's so irritating to me to see the main building has a pretty good size overhang and is great, but then when you go to the other one, it doesn't have an overhang. So for me, I just would like to find some consistency between those two buildings as far as the overhangs is concerned. And then having looked at the photographs that we saw recently around, as far as I'm okay with the sandstone, but I really would like to see it so that it is contained. It's like, it's a pathway, not just kind of going out onto its own self. It's like having scattered rocks inside the lawn. The original round had brickwork around it, and it was actually a very specific, round, and then had specific edges. And I'm kind of opposed to this random edges of the sandstone. Okay, so other than that, that's my take. So much of the existing, there's one that actually is random, a stepping one. Okay,
yeah.
I'll take it back. Then I would just like to see the sandstone, really tight around this pond that we're keeping. That's all.
Okay.
That's all.
Bill?
Yeah, I'll jump on Claire's comments. I agree with that statement. I think the stone in an architectural sense, having the sharper edge here where it's more formal makes sense. Certainly a random side path is for me okay. I agree also with the roof comment on the cabana. I think I'd like to see it unified better, whether you modify the main residence or it's a combination of the two. I think I like the main residence roof overhang a little better. Maybe it's a little longer than it needs to be, but anyway, combine those two so that they work. Otherwise, I think the residential addition looks good. I don't have any issue with that, and look, when you get into the details, we'll be interested to see how you deal with lighting and color and all that stuff. So looks good. Thank you.
Don, please.
Thank you. While I certainly understand the pool house should be subservient to the main structure, I think it needs a little more work. I think the arches have to be deeper than 6 or 8 inches before you get to the glass line. And it just lacks the romance of the main structure. I have no problem with the large addition, and I think that it'll be really successful. Thank you.
Tip?
I agree with all the comments, especially related to the guest house. Thank you.
And I want to chime in and beat up on the guest house as well. I think that it is an interesting placeholder, and I can hardly wait till we see the actual representation of what it will look like when it's finished. Where do we want to go with this? Are we ready? You know, the guest house, everyone has commented. Are we ready to go to, and I think that the main project and how you've integrated it and the cleverness of covering it, I think all of that was very nice, and you should be complimented for that. Where do we want to go next? Further concept, or are we ready for a preliminary?
Oh, I think we move this to, ask the planner to put it on for preliminary next time. Full board.
I agree with Claire.
Okay.
I do too.
Okay, and so do I. So, but not final. Let's do a 2-step here.
No, just no preliminary, full board.
Yeah, and then we'll see what happens about getting it on the consent calendar. Okay, so William, are you good there?
Yes, thank you all. Appreciate
Thank you,
your
and
your
Melissa.
thoughts.
Doesn't mean to minimize you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Now, item 6 and 7, Tip has a conflict, so he will not be a member of the board. He is, of course, welcome to attend as a observe. If
Outsider.
As an observer. Okay, item number 6. Chris, you were with us earlier today. Are you here now, please?
Might I interrupt John real quick, just for a quick question? Did we receive, Sharon,
I don't know. I asked them to turn that into me by 12 o'clock because after 12, I'm running around getting ready for the meeting and I'm not at my desk.
So
we did send that in.
You want to email it to me directly?
Did you give that to me by 12?
I think I did, or it was like right at 12.
Bill, I would not, we are on YouTube forever.
Okay. All
I
right.
would not hand out your email address.
No.
Unless you want to also give your social security number with it.
I do not.
Okay, there you go.
Those.
Okay, so Chris, are they been transmitted yet?
I have sent them to Sharon, so she can forward them to you guys.
Okay, so let me start here. Item number 6, we are 1685 Fernald Point Lane. We did have a site visit today. Site visit of story poles required. We saw that. Provide 3D massing model, which is what the chit chat about this email is about. MBAR expressed concerns regarding cohesiveness of design between the existing structure and the addition, which is what we're hoping for with those 3D studies. Restudy south elevation, flat roof design. Restudy location or size of tennis court pickleball. Probably should have had a question mark at the end of that. Okay, Chris or whomever, please, the floor is yours. We are on for further concept.
Yeah, so just to give a quick rehash of the project description. The lot has an existing 1-story main residence with 2 detached garages, an existing guest house, and an existing pool cabana. The pool cabana is outside of the scope for our proposal. So what we're proposing is the relocation and conversion of the existing guest house to be a new gym. We're proposing the demolition of the 2 detached garages. We're proposing an addition, a two-story addition to the main house. On the first floor of that addition that will be attached will be an ADU. And underneath that two-story structure will be a new underground garage and storage area. And let's see.
And a minor addition, you have to the new entry to the.
Yeah, part of that addition will be to the entry of the main house.
And the removal of that pool, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to go to the beginning?
I think we've lost Chris.
Oh, Chris, I cannot hear you.
Can you hear us now? Still no?
Yes, now yes.
Okay.
Give me direction where you want to go first, and I'll just go there. We just go sheet to sheet if you want.
Yeah, we can start with, so I think we've already covered a lot of the stuff in our prior meetings, but if we kind of go down to, I guess, the site plan, we can kind of address some of the stuff more directly about the tennis court and kind of what we're planning on doing with that. So we've kind of in a way pushed it back closer to the house to help better kind of site it. And then we're also applying for modification to allow the tennis court to, or for a modification of the front yard setback for the sports court, for that tennis court. So it would be 36 feet from the center line of the street. And it would just be kind of for that structure, so. As far as
Yeah, so if you zoom in on the tennis court, it'll be more clear on what we're applying for here. So the modification, so the existing front yard setback is 50 feet from the center of the right of way in Fernald Point. And so the modification would adjust that to be 36 feet. So that the sports court is no longer inside of the front yard setback. So we've been working with Kathleen, the planner, on this.
And as part of that, again, the eucalyptus tree, which we saw on site, having the diseased sort of base is one thing we're still, looking at removing just for safety's sake.
Okay, what else are we looking at?
Claire, you asked whether or not that building was going to be removed when you and I were walking away from.
That one, so that's the building we're going to relocate.
Relocate, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, up north there, yep, so the new gym, so that is the existing guest house that will be converted to a gym.
And that is not going to actually encroach on the side yard setback. I think that's just a graphical thing with the hand drawing.
Okay. Can we keep the meeting moving along a little bit, please?
Yeah. Let's see here. So nothing much changed for the plans or the demo. Kind of keep going, cruising through this. Again, the ADU portion of that addition and the addition to the main residence, second floor addition. Lower level addition and parking garage. Then some 3D views. Here. Just have a better understanding of kind of the context of this. Again, John asked on site if we could provide with some more clarity. We have a version of these where we have all the trees ghosted, so you can better see the addition, but kind of how we're trying to tie it together is through these kind of oval windows and picking up with some of these shutters. Just kind of the style, a real clean sort of modern, but still beachy mid-century sort of feel to the house. View from the tennis court of that two-story addition.
Yeah, and you'll notice the addition to the entry of the main house sort of speaks to the addition, the two-story addition there behind the tennis court. And so we're removing, the overhung eaves on the existing residence and creating a slightly cleaner, more modern feel to the building. And so that detail is continued throughout the main house and anywhere we're adding to it.
So from the ground, you kind of have that clean, almost flat roof feel to the existing main house, which speaks to that 2-story addition. So there's that existing lawn that opens to the ocean, kind of frames the view from the main house. We're really looking to preserve. And then bring some trellis elements outside both of those wings. Exterior elevations, kind of showing how these oval windows and the rhythm of those transfer from the main house to the 2nd story, and again softening sort of that modern feel with the shutters that we're bringing in on the next sheet with kind of the elevations and where we have windows.
Is that it?
That's all I have.
And I think that's everything.
Sharon, are you back with us, please?
Yeah.
One more.
Thanks.
And did you receive those drawings, please?
Oh, I thought Bill was getting them.
I was just gonna have, maybe you can just forward them to me. Is that easy enough to do or not?
I have to go back to my desk. Hold on.
Yeah, I'd like to see
one
those
more.
before we get very far into this.
One more thing we were considering, and I just wanted to put this out there, is to kind of help better blend the 1-story addition to that main residence. You'll see one thing we talked about was the plate height for that 2nd floor and how that intersects with the main house was potentially raising the roof of the main house 2 feet to match and with the line that you see with that patio. So as that comes across, we'll have that continuous plate wrap around the main house. So kind of just elevating the roof and windows of the main house up to match the 2-story portion.
So raising this corner, is that what you're saying?
Right, so it would now plane out with the top of that that piece over on the
Raising
right.
the hip, I think, Bill.
Well, he's talking about the parapet piece in front.
And yeah, and potentially the roof as well for a little bit more volume, but
All right, okay.
be determined.
You're the
Was
designer.
there- John, can I ask a question while we're waiting for these?
Yeah,
drawings?
let's go to questions and then we'll jump back if you don't mind.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Claire, I will put you up front. How's that?
Yeah, well, I just had a question for the architect is to why he chose to go for a flat roof on the addition and not follow the kind of the style of the hipped roof or the roof of the main house. I mean, it's like there's 2 buildings here and they're conflicting with each other for me. That's how it occurs. And I just looking at these drawings, I'm going, well, why doesn't the new big building have the same roof line as the lower building?
I mean, we would love to do that, but we are kind of pinned by a 25-foot max height. And we're trying to maintain kind of this nice ceiling height within the volumes of those spaces.
So what are the ceiling heights of those that 2-story building?
The 1st floor is 11 feet to the plates, and the 2nd floor is 9.5.
Yeah, see, okay, so that in my opinion, you could.
That's going to be a comment.
Oh, sorry.
Questions, please.
Okay.
Any other questions, please? Claire, any other questions, please?
No, that was it. No, that was just
Okay.
and looking through all these drawings, I kind of kept going, why is it like this? That's all.
Bill, please, questions?
Yeah, so what is this? This is like a little awning detail, right? But is it just a balance? Is it flat? Is there a slope to it? It looks like it's.
It would be a fabric awning that would extend out over those.
Is there
So there's a slight slope to it.
Yeah.
Is there a parapet on this, or is it?
Oh, yeah. So behind the parapet, there would be a low slope roof. We'll do an integral gutter. It's going to be obviously a tight detail to maintain the ceiling height within there.
It seems like the glass would have to be lower because roof structure.
That is a comment too.
Well, no, I'm
Hey,
asking,
too much, Bill.
no,
Yeah.
no, I'm asking the question that maybe,
If we go up to the perspectives, there may be a better angle where you're on the ground, you kind of see up underneath there to get the idea of what that opening is.
and
But it
then
should match this side.
is the tennis court a grass court or not? Looks like it in the rendering.
I think we're trying to determine what would be best. We played around with the grass court at one point, but I think ideally it would be a hard court.
Okay, and fencing around that will.
Low fencing, because we're within that kind of the setback with a lot of the space. So
the tennis balls would bounce over the fence, no big deal, I guess. And then this is an easement access that you have across your own property, I suppose, that allows you to get into your garage, is that right? Is that
correct. That would be the easement that's through the shared sort of property, that 1675. So it would be an access easement that will allow access to that to the lower garage.
And yeah, will that need to be radiused a little bit so you can get in and
Yeah, it
out?
should be radiused. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it'll be a little wider. Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Questions, Elida?
Is there a landscape plan? Is any of the landscaping being affected by this?
So we're pretty conceptual right now with our landscape. Definitely some of the, the lower planting is going to be affected. We have a new sort of entry into a circular sort of motor court area. But we're still kind of in the conceptual points and throes of landscape, deciding on
Yeah, the specimen trees will remain. So the coastal oak there next to the two-story addition that you saw this morning, in 1675, there's 2 large cypress trees that will remain. There's a handful of really nice magnolia trees by the main residence and between the motor court and the main residence that will remain. There's a handful of large mature trees that will all remain on site.
Yeah.
Has the uncomfortable conversation with the owners and you all about the percentage of lawn that takes up a good portion?
So largely we're maintaining or reducing lawn. That you can kind of see on site. The lawn that's existing is all to remain, and
it's hard. It's very dramatic. I mean, it's wonderful. It's just painful.
Is that a question or a comment?
It's painful.
I will take that as the end of your questions.
I think that's the end of my questions.
Don't you think? Okay, Don, please.
Thank you. Is the desire for somewhat excessive plate heights on the 2-story structure the reason that there is no visual tie-in with the roof of the existing?
So part of it was we looked at doing a pitched roof on the 2-story addition. And while we were studying that, we noticed that it makes the building feel even larger and a little more looming in terms of bulk and size, overall size. And so when we compared that to the flat roof, it seems to make it a little more compact visually. And so that's the direction we went with that. And we were also looking to, maintain that detail at the top of the eaves for the main house. And, because that's essentially what you'll read from ground level when you look up at the building.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, can we go to one of the elevation of the 3D studies, please? Yeah, that's a good page right there. If I were to say that the fins that come out in the lower left-hand corner image out from the building, and we also see them, I guess, in other views here, were reminiscent of 1960 apartment architecture, what would your comment be about that, please?
I mean, I think they draw from the 1960s. They're definitely kind of more of that Truesdale sort of Beverly Hills sort of feel. all the kind of beautiful work that was going on in that area. And a lot of kind of the simple details of that are what we're trying to incorporate with the addition, kind of bringing these nice curves in, that patio space, and then kind of these big sort of kind of major move elements that kind of come out and project, but also kind of define it and make the simple sort of box more elegant.
Do you have a inspirational images that you would be able to share with us to demonstrate those fins? And then we go down and again, the lower left, there's shutters, and then above it, there are no shutters. How all of those, what I would call disparate elements exist on a single building. Do you have any inspirational images of that, please?
Yeah, I could pull some up for you, but definitely a lot of the Wolf properties in Truesdale, some of the Quincy Jones properties there.
Okay.
Yeah, any of those kind of complexes. It's the mid-century or what is it, Hollywood Regency sort of style and feel.
Okay. Public comment. Bill, have you received anything yet?
I will check here. Let's see.
Thank you.
There we go.
Excellent. Sharon, are you back with us?
Sharon had to leave for another prior engagement. My name is Jonathan from Hearing Support. I'll be taking over.
Okay, thank you. Would you make sure to tell her thank you for that extra effort,
Yes.
please?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. These are much easier to read.
See if I can get to that one that's the front.
Well, I think all of them, Bill, because they were,
This here,
yeah, they.
up there.
Oh, so these are new images that we haven't seen.
No, they are the images we saw without the trees being opaque. They're now translucent, so we can see through them.
Oh, got it. Okay. Okay.
So that we've seen these images, just not as with as much ability to understand the buildings behind them.
That one there is probably the.
Oh, I see. So it's just the fuzziness of the trees that's been taken away.
Yeah, we can see behind the trees now.
And so we're trying to see. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I don't think those trees did you guys any good before, but that's a comment, not a question. So, Bill, did you want to kind of go through each one of them, please?
Yeah, I can slowly scan.
What?
Okay, we are still on questions. Having seen these, does anybody have any additional questions they'd like to ask, please?
Oh, no.
Anybody? Okay, public comment. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 6, 1685 Fernald Point Lane? Is there anybody out there, please? Okay, I'll close public comment. Comments. Claire, you started with questions. Let's get you started on comments.
I still have a concern about the disparity of the architecture between the new building and the old building. And that was why I was asking questions about it before, is that for me, it occurs as two different buildings, and the fact that, that's why I was asking about plate heights, is that, I really think that this new building needs to be consistent with the architecture of which is why I was asking for the roof heights and it just seems like it's separate. It's like a whole separate thing to me. And that's kind of why I think that building it should have at least the same roof slope, not being poking up above the existing structure. So those are kind of my comments. The rest of the project seems pretty good, but that building is just, I just can't support that particular the new building, because it's not consistent with the rest of the project or the existing building. You know, it's like a tack on. That's just me, okay?
Bill?
Yes, I would have to jump on the wagon with Claire. Exactly right. I like what you've done here. I like that feel. I like the treatment to the existing house. I think that's all fine. I think this area just doesn't look, it looks, and you said it, John, I think it feels more apartment-like to me from the 60s. And I think it would, my opinion would be that it'd look better if it had, you know, brought the plates down to where you could work with them, and maybe you did an open ceiling inside on the upper and did a pitched roof and matched the same styling that you have here. Something about the proportions too, because you're pinched against the height. I think you're really pushing your luck here with the roof structure and the top of the window head and the parapet. I don't think you have enough shown there, because you're going to have at least 12 inches for slopes and everything else going on in the roof line there. So I don't think it actually could be done this way. And certainly that other side where you have the awning shade cover, that I just don't think there's enough room there. So I'd rethink that too. So anyway, I think this structure needs some restudy. I'm fine with everything else. I'm fine with the fact you pulled the tennis court off. I like that. You got more landscape there. Site work, I applaud you for removing some of the paving that you had in the front yard. That's great. You have more landscape, and to some of the other landscape architects' comments, I'm sure watch your drought tolerant Welo stuff and your lawn areas, try to get those to help reduce water usage. So anyway, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Elida, please.
Well, I can't really speak to the roof lines. I don't have that much education, but I love the project. I love how open it is. You can just take deep breaths everywhere you look. It's a beautiful project. That's it.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you. I personally agree with just about every comment I've heard, but mostly the disparity between the roof height and the lack of continuity between the existing and the new two-story building. I just can't buy. Thank you.
And I want to just chime in. I don't think I need to beat up anything. I would love to see the images that you believe have led you to this design. I see at least 3 different building styles here. There may be 4. I can see 2 maybe, but 3 or 4, no. So I would ask that you go back, and I don't think it's the floor plan. I think it's the way in which you've rendered the exterior. So anyway, I have nothing more to say on that. So back for concept, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, now they've got an application in for a modification for a tennis court. I think we should chime in on that. Do we think that this is a good idea for the site plan? Do we believe that there is another organization of the site that would allow them not to require the front yard setback like that?
Well, a smaller pickleball court would work without probably the request for a modification, but that's not what they're looking for.
Well, but the question, and that's a true statement, thank you, Bill. The question is, do we feel that there is reason that we should grant this? Why? I don't know why we should do this. Does anybody?
Well, John, what are you asking? Are you at? What we are discussing and what we're saying is the location of the tennis court.
That's right.
right? And that in our opinion, this isn't the correct location for it.
Well, I don't know. I am asking
Oh, we
whether or
don't
not.
know. Okay.
No, I'm asking the board's opinion. And so what does the board?
The board's opinion about the location of the new tennis court.
Right, is it appropriate? They've got down here on, we can see the fire department turnaround. They're kind of squished at that point. Maybe they could, I guess the oak tree is limiting them at some point. They've got the underground driveway. Is this, are they asking too much? Or is the board okay with this, please? I think we should chime in on it.
I mean, maybe the question might be also asked is to whether or not if it was pushed 50 feet, is that going to make it any better? I mean, they've got quite a bit of landscaping there off of Fernald Point Lane to help screen it, it looks like, at least based on these drawings.
And Fernald Point's kind of.
Yeah.
I think it's way over here out of the way for all the use tennis courts get on residential properties. It's stuck away over on the side. To me, it's a good place to have it.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with it, with the location of it. What I do have is that there's a lot of extra stuff around the tennis court that could be peeled back a little bit. The white area on this picture, the cement or whatever that. Chris, what is around the tennis court?
Sure. So, I mean, one thing to keep in mind, you guys were on site, is that, Fernald Point does butt up against train tracks. So if tennis balls go across Fernald Point, it's not like they're interfering with any of our neighbors across the way or even with the, per se, traffic on Fernald Point. But in terms of the sports court, the area around the actual playing area is, obviously necessary to game of tennis itself.
Oh, got it. Well, I can actually see that in the pictures here now. Okay.
Yeah, what you're seeing is just a normal, like a typical regulation size tennis court.
Yeah.
That perimeter.
And we don't really want to push it too close to that tree because we are trying to locate the fire truck turnaround in that location for the adjacent property and the shared access.
And this is the only place on the property that it can be. Is that correct?
Without, because we've also got the fire truck turnaround with the motor court and kind of that entry courtyard without, throwing it right in front of your front door. It's kind of
But this is a new tennis court. So that's actually open space right now on the property. Is that correct?
Will be.
It's saying the new tennis court. We haven't built the thing yet, so.
Chris, is there a tennis court on the adjoining property to the southeast, please?
Right. So right now where the pool is located is where the tennis court for the adjacent lot sits.
Yeah, if you bring up the survey, you get a quicker understanding of where everything's located.
So we're going to put in the two just different neighbors. I'm just going to use that word. I think it's the same owner, but we're now going to do two tennis courts.
No, one.
No, so we're basically taking that tennis court and moving it up to where the guest house currently is.
Yeah, we're putting it here.
John?
Oh God. Okay, I'm trying to grasp what's going on here with this tennis court.
Don Sharp.
Thank you. I cannot support a modification for a tennis court on a property of this size, period. Pickleball has nothing to do with it. That was brought up last time, and it's a bad precedent to begin allowing. Thank you.
Okay, so that's one.
I would say also that this is maybe not super accurate in that this is going to have to be some kind of hard surface, which we're not really seeing if that's a fire turnaround. So now
it'll be like a DG. It's not going to be like an asphalt. And one thing about relocating the tennis court to some other area in that front yard, you guys were out on site and it was heavily vegetated with a lot of existing specimen trees that we're trying not to, cut down. So that's part of the other reason why we're locating it sort of here, is that we're only removing that one for the court, and then the other one that's diseased, and then the next one for the road.
Okay, can you zoom out just a little tiny bit, Bill?
Zoom out, oh.
Okay, so I see a straight line under the words in the middle of the lawn, 1685 Fernald Point. Is that a property line, that straight line?
No.
That's a string line.
No, that's a topography.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So, we have this huge lawn area and we're kind of shoving the tennis court into the corner so that they can maintain that view. Now, Elida was correct. It is spectacular. I love it. I mean, is this too much, in order to maintain that, which is obviously at the moment fairly water wasting? Is this a smart move? Should we encourage this or not? Please. I have a hard time saying that I could support this. It seems like too much is being jammed in here.
Yeah, well, that's kind of, I'm with Mr. Sharp. I can't support this tennis court where it is. I think your idea of moving it down in front of the house along that edge next to the cabana on that I guess that's the southern edge. Put the tennis court down there, or put it down here on the, take some of that lawn and just, it could be on either side of the existing lawn and that locate it there.
Blow out your view.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with Don, is that I'm not going to, I can't recommend a modification for a tennis court.
Okay, so we have Don, Claire. I don't think I can either. That's 3. Elida, where are you coming down, please?
I'm fine with the new tennis court where it is.
Okay, and Bill, please.
And to throw a wrench in it, I would prefer it to be smaller, like a pickleball.
Okay.
It's smaller, it's like half that size.
Okay, so I do not hear overwhelming support for this. Before you guys get going, maybe you could chat with your owner about this. I think we're done here, if that's okay with everybody. Anybody last comments, including the applicants, please? Anybody? Okay.
My comment to the applicant is to restudy the location of the tennis court.
And it may require that you reconsider how the entry works and things like that, the entry driveway and how that works. Okay, so thank you all. Item number 7, again, Tip has a conflict with this. And so Chris, we're back. This is the first time we've seen it, so we have no minutes or things of that nature. Chris, please.
Sure.
1675 Fernald Point Road, item number 7.
I'm looking at 2 different, September, October, okay. The file is a little weird. All right, this October date on the drawings.
And there's no planner assigned on this yet?
This is the very first review. It's their free review with us.
Oh,
So
got
we're
it.
asking for Kathleen, our planner for the other property, because she's so familiar with both lots to be
Sure,
involved.
that's logical, but she hasn't been assigned yet.
Correct.
Okay, so please.
So again, familiar with the site, we just kind of covered it. What we're proposing here is about a 1775 square foot one-story single family residence and a pool. The character and style of this single family residence, again, is to match the main house. We'll kind of see that in the hand-drawn elevations that we provided. And it's the location of the pool and the main house is all kind of out of respect of what we're doing for the addition of the other property. in terms of maintaining the views, ocean views across the pool area, and trying to pull and locate the one-story house out of that sort of view shed. You will notice that we are encroaching into the side yard setback by less than 5 feet, only the corner of the kind of property. And again, that's just to try and maintain that view shed from that new patio and two-story addition over the pool into a beautiful ocean view. The site, we've located the house. You'll see that existing cypress tree. It's kind of being covered up, but in the middle of that kind of half round deck to the right of the new house is an existing cypress tree. We're pinning it kind of in between both of those trees. So that's deck, and the tree would come up through that deck space. From the height of the main house, we were, because of flood control, having to locate that finished floor, I believe 19 feet based on our early discussions. Then trying to step the pool down from that finished floor. Again, just trying to help it blend in with the actual natural grade of the property. So the patio that wraps around this is all going to be decking. Again, to allow for the trees to kind of breathe and but still obtain water. And then we're doing an infinity edge off of the edge of that pool, again, for the beautiful view straight into the ocean, to kind of maximize that.
This needs to come down to the setback.
So again, well beneath the height limit, even with a raised finished floor being a one-story. The elements that we're picking up, again, are that kind of half round piece from the center of the adjacent house. And then just a lot of that same kind of white box language.
And are you done?
Yeah, and so the roofing on this, we're going to be doing a green roof on it as well. I think that's the last maybe.
Okay, and a quick question, just to get started, if you don't mind. Are you required to have the floor at a certain distance, a certain FEE on this property, or could you lower it? What?
That's just why it's on a plinth.
Yeah, we had a coastal hazard study completed, and 19 feet is sort of the minimum, essentially.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, questions, please. Don?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Bill?
So just to recap on what John was asking, you're saying that your finished floor is where it is because that's what you have to have it at?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, and that's because of the storm?
So it's because of the FEMA flood map. So that's the floodplain that we're dealing with there, yeah.
All right, okay. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Claire?
Questions?
Questions, please.
No questions.
Elida, please.
No questions.
Actually, I do have a question.
Claire, do you have a question?
Why? I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Why did you choose to locate the house within the setback?
So again, it's to maintain the views from that two-story addition over the pool, over the deck. Not trying to.
You mean to maintain the views of the new addition for the other property?
Yes.
So, yeah, first and second floor of that addition.
Okay, thank you.
Got interrupted.
Is it my turn now for questions? I see a dashed line over the plan what is that, please?
That's the roof.
So that's the awning.
That's the eave above.
Eave above, yeah.
Okay, and the reason that this is in the setback is because you chose to have two rooms back to back rather than stacking them linearly all the way down. Have you explored the option of not having the laundry, water closet, changing room behind the kitchen, gym, and bedroom, but in between each of those functions, please. And then continue to circulate where it says 19 feet finished floor along that line. Have you explored that option so you can get out of the setback, please?
So elongating the house and the width.
Yeah.
Part of that was, again, those two existing trees, those cypress, trying not to encroach upon those.
And where are those, please? Bill, could you zoom out a little bit?
One there, is there one?
I don't see the other one. Is there?
Oh, yeah, the other one, it should be shown. So there's essentially a trunk about 8 feet from 10 feet from the northern side of the building. There, you can see it there by the stairs coming down.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Public comment. Is there anybody that's attending this meeting that would like to address the board on item number 7, 1675 Fernald Point Lane, please? Seeing none. Okay, comments. Don?
Well, as you probably suspect, I am not in favor of allowing any structures in a required side yard, especially on a site this large, when there, as I look at it, several good options. Thank you.
Okay. Bill?
Yeah, I agree with Don. I don't think you need to get into the setback there. I would encourage you to push it out of that. And otherwise, I'm fine with the style of the architecture. I think it looks fine. I don't see any issues with that. Height looks good. The fact that you're having to set it up on a pedestal because of flood is what it is. But yeah, otherwise, other than pulling it out of the setback, I'm good with the design. Thank you.
Claire? Thank you, Bill. Claire?
Yeah, I have no problem with the design of the project. But I am not going to vote for it until it gets out of the setback. I don't think there's any, I mean, out of respect to the neighbor, why should, you know, I mean, that's why we have setbacks, you know?
Elida?
I have to agree with the other board members.
And I agree with the board members too. So please find a way to redesign the building out of the setbacks. And that should conclude our meeting. Is there anything else that needs to be discussed while we are still in session, please? May I have it? Yes.
I don't know whether it needs to be discussed while we're in the meeting or out of the building, but I wanted to get from you the conversation that we were having about in the very beginning, having county council come and do a presentation. I want to get a handle more on what you were saying.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write up an outline of things that I think are relevant. I'm going to make sure that all of us get a copy of that, and I want to actually get some time assigned at the beginning of next meeting to make sure that my outline is correct. It includes everything. It's not overly complicated, etc. And then once we get that figured out, we'll get it over to county council. And then they will be prepared for us to be in as efficient a meeting as possible.
Oh, perfect. Okay, that's what I was missing that part. I couldn't figure out why we were asking county council to come, you know, when you have a list of things that we're going to ask them. Is that correct? That you're preparing the list that we want to have. We want to ask county council prior to the meeting.
Yeah, I'm going to prepare a list. I'm going to review it with the board, make sure the board thinks it's complete, not too much, it covers the issues we want to chat about, send it over to county council so that they have the time to prepare. And then when they come, they can answer that. And if they have anything in addition, you know, they're going to give us that as well.
So
okay?
at this point in time, we have not scheduled the meeting with county council.
It sounds like the first meeting in December is when they are available.
What's the goal?
I want to what is the limit to our authority? What is the Brown Act? How does the Brown Act affect our behavior in and out of the meetings? You know, just kind of, you've never had a Brown Act training. I have had at least one, and I think a couple. And there's some things that, you know, it'd be a good idea for us to get to tighten up our act.
Okay.
But given what you said, you know, the next meeting is the first week of December.
No, first meeting of November is next meeting.
Oh, November. I'm just ahead of schedule. Sorry about that, John.
So there's about three meetings before
before county council is going to show up. They're going to show up at the first meeting of
December.
Right. Okay. So we have a month to work on your list and our in-house conversations.
Our list. I'm going to start it. It will be our list, please.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I'm just trying to sort out the time and all of that.
Our first meeting is December 1.
Whenever it is, I don't care when it is. It's some date, okay? Anything else, please?
No. Thank you, John.
Okay, so may I have a motion for adjournment, please?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I will be back from Arkansas next week or 2 weeks from now.
Good. Well, say a prayer for all of us.
Good. I'm not going to Arkansas. So
thorncrown.org or something like that. You should go out there if you have a chance.
Thanks
See you
for
guys.
Thanks for the challenges, John.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Hi, Daisy.